and welcome everyone back to Chaos Child, where last time we went through some things. Oh, it says back, but it won't let me go back. I was gonna see if we could actually watch the opening cutscene. Oh well. I didn't want to have it on loop. Anyway, how is everyone doing this evening? We are back with some Chaos Child as we get into Chapter 10 of 11, getting closer and closer to the end of the game. As, well, we know the murderer, but we don't know the full story around the murderer. So, yeah. So that's all pretty crazy, but how is everyone doing tonight? Hello, Brian FD, Novoxis, Just a Guy, Gregster, Oscar, Jaden Buck, Fi Lightbringer, Fa56, Lass, Soy Sauce, and Cat Evie. Thank you very much for that Tier 1 subscription, 29 months now, and that happened. I can't, and that's happened. I can't use it in the upcoming subathon. Well, good. Well, okay. So for the subathon, real quick. I had to look at. I was taking a look at when I'd be actually able to host it and actually do the subathon. Real quick. Wow. Smashmat, thank you very much for the Tier 2 subscription. 32 months now. Subiversary is a good time for introspection for why you've been subscribed for someone for so long. I'm subscribed to you because you've always been such a nice guy, and I love hearing your opinions on things. Oh, thank you so much, Smashmat. Really do appreciate that. And Tier 3 subscription from Egg Rolls saying 32 months, looking forward to the upcoming streamathon, and I hope for a continued success in all your endeavors. Thanks for keeping such a great and welcoming community. Of course. Thank you for being part of it. Oh, Rob Harley, thank you very much for the Tier 1 subscription. 30 months now saying, hey, Derek and Chet, had a crappy day yesterday. Hoping you relax with, oh, we're playing Chaos Child. Yeah. So, I was looking ahead to when we'd be able to do the subathon. I talked about this as part of the end of Outer Wilds, where I announced I'm going to be doing a streamathon in the hopes of being able to pay off my car. Got most of the ideas in place, getting things all set and all that stuff, but timing is tricky. So it can't be this coming weekend. So a week from now, because of I forget exactly what it is. Oh, I know what it is. I can't do it because I have the EP squad as part of Good Vibes Gaming. Just can't do that. I can't do it on the following Saturday because Amy's youngest, Sydney, has her dance recital that day and that morning, so we can't do it then. So we're going to have to do it the weekend after, so 3 weeks from now, basically, on June 10th. I think that is our date. So basically, in 3 weeks, that's when we'll be able to do the subathon. Yeah, it has to happen next month just because of how things ended up. So that's where that is. But thank you, Mito, thank you very much for the 100 bits saying all aboard. And yes, we have hit a hype train. Level 3 hype train of all things. Holy crap. And Cat Evie with 100 bits saying Cool Cat Press Comic Con edition yesterday at Comic Con. I bought a Pikachu Squishmallow and later a Pokemon mystery box that had another Pikachu Squishmallow. So now I have 2 Pikachu Squishmallows. It's a Jake Boystone real events. Oh wow, that's cool. The Voxes, thank you very much for that 27-month Tier 1 subscription for 27 months now. So a hype train is always a good excuse to renew a sub. I appreciate it. I certainly appreciate it. Oh man, Amy, I should have waited to sub today. It's all right. It's all right. Hey, maybe you'll be able to sub during the subathon. But yeah, so June 10th is when our streamathon is going to be. Just the way it all kind of worked out. I was hoping for next weekend or the week after, but I mean, I took the time to. I have almost all my games cataloged. I just need to get the physical ones finished up for the Switch. And holy crap, I have a lot to get. Our randomizer is going to be quite interesting as far as that's all concerned. That's for sure. Whew. All right. Well, let's go ahead and get into this because depending on how much progress we make, we like if we finish up this this chapter this session, we might be able to finish the game by next time. I don't know. It's hard. Everybody assumes 2 to 3, so we'll see that what all that's about. 556 with 500 bits saying sniped dead, except yeah, he just missed it. Amy's still dead for a little bit. Enough for basically 150 bits. Is what it takes to get become the next death. Amy is barely hanging on. Got that cardio going on for Takaru. Jeez. Had a good run. Yeah, it was a pretty good run, Amy, for sure. Alright. Well, like I said, let's get to it. See what we're in for as we enter Chapter 10 of this. The clapping sound is Takaru running. Oh my gosh, 556 with 200 bits, just barely getting getting there before Kolex with their tier 2 subscription. Congratulations on being Death 556. Kolex saying, let's celebrate 15 months by continuing this crazy psychic roller coaster of a story. No kidding. Just a guy with 500 bits as well, saying took the whole week off from work, filled with Tears of the Kingdom, and now ending with my favorite streamer. It's been a good week. Yeah, I've not had a chance to play a lot of Tears of the Kingdom, but what I've played, I've really enjoyed. So I'm looking forward to doing more of that. Also got to squeeze in a bit of Street Fighter 6 open beta. And that was a good time. It's nice to feel like I was getting back into the swing of things with Jury, even though I was losing a lot. Alright, well, let's see if we can get the running done. Oh, DGC, thank you very much for that Prime subscription. 18 months now. Thank you for choosing me. Saying, a year and a half subscribed to your channel. Where does time fly? That is a good question. Oh yeah, gonna be weird playing A Link Between Worlds tomorrow while Tears of the Kingdom's still fresh. Very, very odd timing on that one, but hey, I'm looking forward to it. It's gonna be fun. Alright. I hadn't run that far, but my muscles were starting to scream. I couldn't stop moving. Things in front of the train station were the same as ever. Nobody noticed me. There was a picture of my face out there, right? So why didn't anyone notice me? I didn't understand. Had it all really happened? Or did everyone here not know what had happened yesterday night? Alright, we had discovered that Serica was the murderer of all things. We don't know her motivations, but we do know for the final murder, she killed Nono. Because Nono approached her, and it turns out the two of them are both psychics. And yet Takaru's been pinned with the blame on this whole thing, yet they're saying that he's doing it and the police are after him. And despite needing to stay, he decided to run off. So that's where we're at right now. I would say it's good timing and prep for part 3 down the road of the retrospective. I mean, I'm making decent progress. I'm about halfway through the Majora's Mask section of part 2. Oh, it's been harsh on Takaru for sure. Alright. Here we go. I have to get back. I have to get back to Alba Dorm. The police were at Alba Dorm, ripping apart the place I loved. They decided I was the killer, and they'd even searched Nono's room? Why? That night I'd asked Shinjo to let me take Nono's body to the hospital. My memories cut out after that, and I could only remember a few things. I remembered being taken to Frisia, and screaming and sobbing there. And then, that's right, that's when I'd heard the news that I was wanted as a person of interest in the case. Damn it. Mimose had given me something to drink and some medicine. It was probably a sleeping pill or something. To calm me down, to keep me quiet. I didn't want to sleep, because Kurisu, the one I loved, was dead. And it was Serica Onoe, my childhood friend, who'd killed her. How could I sleep? But I'd spent the whole day on a sofa asleep. Do I feel like keep starting over? Thankfully not, Majestic Guy. That is true, Gregster. Although, I gotta say, the footage for my streams isn't great because I have the little stuff popping over. I have the notifications coming in. It doesn't work for certain scenes. So that's why that's a little trickier. I ran. I was too tired to run straight, but my body was heavy like lead and wasn't doing what I told it. But I kept running. No one noticed me. Why are you walking around like everything's normal? Why are you smiling and shopping? What the hell is wrong with all you people? A warrant? What the hell? Why would I kill Nono? I staggered, tripped, and fell. I must have skinned my knee because it started to feel like it was burning. Once I fell over, I couldn't get back up. It was all I could do to roll over, and then I realized that I knew this place. This is... I looked around and shivered. This was the place. Oh, good, we get to see that again. This was the place where my best friend had carved my little sister into tiny little pieces. I felt a sudden, strong urge to vomit. Was it because I'd been running for so long? Or was it because of my memories of this place? What the hell? Why the hell would I come here now? I thought I'd been running the right way, but I was in such a hurry that I'd taken a wrong turn. If this was some kind of trick that God was playing, what the hell was he bringing me here for? Was this his way of telling me that I could go back to that night and reset everything? Hey, hype train complete. Level 4. Holy crap. 7 gifts, 7 subs and 1,400 bits. Extremely jealous of all of you. Thank you so much. But that was impossible. With every passing hour, things got worse, and there was no changing the past. God damn it all. I punched the ground with my full strength, not caring about the pain. Again and again. My hands wouldn't stop. I wanted to destroy it. But did I want to destroy the ground or my hand? Or maybe myself or the way I was feeling? God damn it all. Are you alright? I suddenly heard a voice. I looked up and saw 2 boys, about college age. Are you not feeling well? Suddenly, the look on one of the boys' faces changed. He stepped back and dragged the other away. What? Shit, dude. What are you talking about? That's Takaru Miyashiro. Huh? I stood up in surprise. I had no idea who these people were, which meant that my photo really was on the internet. I felt a sharp pain in my stomach when I stood up. It took me a second to realize I'd been kicked. What the hell are you doing? Huh? He's that serial killer, right? Don't worry, no way a wrinkly wimp like this is gonna beat me. Hang on, I'll call the cops. Don't even bother. Ow. Something hard hit my face, my shoulders, and my stomach again and again. I wiped the blood coming out of my nose with my arms. I couldn't keep my eyes open. What's wrong, murderer? He started to get excited and yell as he kicked me. I opened my mouth to tell him he was wrong just as he kicked me in the stomach, and drool and vomit came pouring out. Stop it. Why is this happening to me? I heard the sound of shattering glass, and the impact stopped. Hey, you little shit. What do you think you're doing to my friend, huh? Hey again. You okay, Taku? Gen took me by a quiet, lonely route to his fortress, Miyashita Park. Of course, the police had come to the park in droves as well, but Gen and the other homeless had told them nothing. Of course not. My country does not abandon its comrades. Thanks to them, the cops didn't even know which trailer house was mine yet. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to come here. It felt like a long, long time since I'd come here, even though it hadn't been that long at all. The two boys who attacked me must have called the cops because I could hear sirens going by in the distance. This place probably wouldn't be safe forever either. You know, Taku. Gen took out another bottle of liquor and started to sip from it. Gen fell silent. He looked at me like he was trying to work himself up to say something, and then looked away and took another drink. I'd never seen him like this before. I wrapped my arms around my aching body and waited for him to speak. And after a long time... 556, thank you very much for the 100 bits. Says, gotta heal some HP after taking some damage. Just finished rewatching some parts of Water 7 to prepare for the podcast. Nice. Yeah, we'll be starting that pretty soon. Tomorrow will be, oh boy, movie 5, which... I didn't remember much of it, but it sucks. Oh god, it sucks. You'll see why when in the podcast tomorrow, but ugh. I heard about the lady. Oh yeah, Water 7. So looking forward to seeing that again. That's going to be a good time. A pain worse than the one from my injuries ran through my whole body. The news wasn't talking about anything else, so it wouldn't surprise me if Gen knew about it. I can tell you ain't the killer. I'm of noble blood after all. But you know, Taku, is she really dead? This time I could hear what he was trying to say. Was Nono really dead? I sat in the familiar RV asking myself the question again and again. Gen took sips from his bottle and waited for me. Yeah. I didn't know how long it took me to do it, but I slowly nodded. Nono is gone. Oh yeah, Water 7 is so good. I looked down, feeling like I'd admitted to something horrible, unfixable mistake. Why? She's one of those people who deserves to be happy in life. I couldn't lift my head at all, but for some reason I didn't cry. Yeah, I haven't seen Guardians of the Galaxy 3 either. The sun set and another hour passed. I never did make it back to the Alba dorm. Gen's friends had told me that the police were watching it, and it was impossible to even get close. I tried to go anyway, but Gen took a gulp of his liquor and said this to stop me. You know, Taku, if you get arrested now, you lose. Isn't that going to be what makes the little kids waiting for you cry? Isn't that going to be what makes the little kids waiting for you cry? Huh? Lose. And then I remembered what I'd been thinking the last time I was in this room. It was like the killer was a player in a game, challenging me. That player was... No, I still couldn't believe it. My childhood friend. I'd kept losing to every move she made, and she'd stolen the people I'd cared about. What if I'd been able to win the game? This whole nightmare. It never would have happened, right? Gen, sorry, but I need your help with something. Sure thing, but it costs money to hire me. I'll put it on your tab so you can pay me once it's all done. Gen gulped down the last of the alcohol from his cup. I went with Gen and a few of his friends to a certain condo in Daikinyama, deliberately choosing the routes with the least amount of people. We passed by police officers several times, but because of Gen and the others, no one suspected me. Is that the place? Yeah. Just help me get inside. I can do the rest myself. Sure. Make it quick. This was Serika's house. It was where I'd been headed the night I'd lost Kurisu. I'd come here a few times, though not often. When I'd just left Albadorm and gone to Miyashita Park, I didn't know how to get food or do my laundry, and Serika had helped me out. I'd use her shower, and sometimes even stayed the night. Of course, nothing had happened between us. I looked up and saw that the lights were off. There was no sign of any police or detectives. Okay, let's go. I took Gen inside and left the others behind. I went to Serika's room and used my power to break all the locks. I'd taken Gen with me because I couldn't Realboot my power on its own. Is it session? Did I mess up the session number last? Hold on. Let me double check on that. Let me double check. Oh, it is session 11. Hold on. Forgot to change that. Okay, now we should be good, hopefully. Gen's eyes had gone wide when he'd seen the door open, but all he said was, guess I must be drinking too much. Thank you. You can go home now. Sure, take care. Gen patted me on the back and left. Once I'd watched him go, I went inside. I tried to sense if someone else was in the room before I turned the lights on. There was no one there, including Serika. Once I was sure I was alone, I turned on the switch. It was a normal room. If anything, it was a little more grown up than you'd expect from a teenage girl. The room wasn't especially messy. Shinjo and the others had supposedly come here once, but they hadn't ransacked the place in their search. Where did you go, Onoue? Momose had said that they'd found nothing here to indicate where Serika had gone. I'd come here because I wanted to know what Serika was really after. But what was I supposed to do now? And when I did find Serika, what would I do then? Ask questions? If I did, what kind of answers would satisfy me? What kind of answers would be good enough? Satisfied? Good enough? That was impossible. I turned on Serika's computer without even being sure what I should be looking for. I opened each file I could find and looked inside. Nothing. None of the files were important, just like Momose had said. There was a folder marked Newspaper Club that was filled with information about the case, but it was all stuff I'd already seen in school. That's right, what about the drawers? I pulled open one of them. Ugh. I flinched back when I saw what was inside. Sumo stickers. And not just one or two, there were tons, and all of them were the real 11th Rorschach. What are these doing here? I barely managed to look away before my vision dimmed and I passed out. When the stickers disappeared from my field of vision, I forced myself to take control before the horrible delusions overcame me. Sweat beaded down from my forehead. God, the voice actor sounds when he's like... Ugh. It's awful. I quickly tried to shut the door, but then I heard a metallic sound inside. I rummaged through the drawer with my hand, taking care not to look at the stickers. I touched something hard and flat. I pulled it out and quickly slammed the door shut. What is this? It was my phone. And not the new one I was using now. It was the one I dropped at AH Tokyo General Hospital and never found after that. I fearfully turned it on. And I saw the picture I'd set as my wallpaper. It was the photo I'd taken with everyone. Hands on the wall, slowly. Suddenly the door opened and I heard the click of a cocking gun behind me. I almost turned around, but a low voice told me to stop. Don't try anything, do what you're told. Okay. Oh no, that was definitely a cop. Was I going to be arrested here? If I was, that would be the end of everything. I wouldn't be able to escape no matter what excuses I tried to make. Yuto. Uki, Dad, I'm sorry. I won't be coming home. You're a gigalomaniac. If you use your power, you can escape easily, a tempting voice said from somewhere in my mind. But if I ran here, it would mean I was the killer. If it ever went to trial, it would look bad. Then it's okay to just kill him, Taku. There aren't any witnesses here. I heard a voice I recognized in my head. Was I hallucinating from exhaustion? Or was she using telepathy? What are you doing here, huh? The man I thought was a police officer suddenly sounded surprised. Miyashiro? Huh? It was only then that I realized who it was. I twisted my upper body to look at who was behind me. I wondered if it was him. Shinjo? It is you, Miyashiro. I almost collapsed from relief. Shinjo put his gun away and sighed as he walked over to me. It's always the same thing with you, isn't it? You worried me. He made a fist and bopped me on the head. I didn't know what to do when I got the call from Momose. Where have you... Huh? He stared at my face. How did you get hurt like that? Oh, this is... I explained what happened this afternoon. I see. Shinjo sighed again. You know the situation you're in, right? You shouldn't be going outside. So, what are you doing here? After a long pause that Shinjo started to get suspicious, I answered him honestly. I don't know. What? I was planning on looking for her, but then I realized I didn't know what I'd do when I found her. Why had Serika done this? Was she really responsible for everything else that had happened too? If she said yes, would I believe her? If she said yes, what would I do? What do you think I want to do, Shinjo? I'll give you this. Shinjo took something out from his suit pocket and handed it to me. Sorry, but I looked inside it. I didn't know what might be a clue. I found it when I was searching Albert Dorm. Honestly, your family should be the only ones to read it, but the rest of the force hasn't seen it. I'm sorry. Shinjo bowed his head a little. On the front of the envelope was written, "To my beloved family," and on the back with the name, No. I opened the envelope and there were several sheets of paper inside. They were covered with rows of neatly written, handwritten words. I'm surprised they took the time to write all this in English. To my beloved family. To my beloved family, I'm writing this in case something terrible happens. Thank you for everything. Everything in my room is yours to use. It would make me happy if you kept the furniture for the next person who becomes a part of our family. Dad, I'm sorry I won't be able to help around the clinic anymore. All the paperwork I haven't finished is in the drawer in the exam room. The medical books I borrowed are on my shelf. You know, when I said I wanted to be a nurse, all you said was, "Oh, I see." I thought you might have been opposed to it, but you actually knew what I wanted to do a long time ago, didn't you? Did you hear me talking with one of the patients, or did you just know somehow? It started with what you said when I was helping Takaru with his physical therapy. You're doing a great job for someone who hasn't gone to school. I'm impressed. I'm sure that's just the way a father is. I love the rules you made for our family. Thank you. Oh wow, so certain translations didn't happen until the Switch version. Please don't drink too much. Yui and Uki. I'm sorry this is happening at a time like this. I can't make any excuses for what happened with Yui. I couldn't stop what happened. It's my responsibility. Yuto, I'm sorry for being such an obnoxious big sister. Looking back, maybe I was a little too strict. You're a boy, so you probably wanted to have more freedom. Uki, I don't think it matters how long someone's been a part of a family. What matters is how much you've seen them laugh or cry, how much you've seen of each other at your worst, how many feelings you've shared. You're Takaru's little sister, you're Yudo's big sister, your dad's daughter. It'll be hard being the only girl, but I know you can do it. Yeah, girls have had it rough in this family. Gotta hydrate. And lastly, to Takaru. I'm sorry for breaking my promise. I guess I'm a bad sister. I don't know what's going to happen, but no matter what happens, I know you'll be mad. But if something happens to me, promise me you won't think about revenge. I know she's involved, and I know you'll want to know why, but don't try to find out. Don't do anything dangerous. If you can, forget about your power. Make more friends at school. Find a girlfriend and be the best boyfriend you possibly can. There. Go on a fun date and talk about stuff that doesn't matter, like the people you always make fun of. Go out with your friends and do some of those things that you always said were a waste of time. You looked like you were having so much fun at the culture festival, and when you were talking with you and Yuto at home. Every time you said you were different from everyone else, I always wondered why you had to be so stubborn. It's true that you have a power that no one else has. It's true that your family might be a little different. But that doesn't mean you have to get so stubborn about trapping yourself in a lonely shell. It always seemed to me like you were afraid of being just one face among the crowd. You were scared to think that you'd be the kind of person who wouldn't stand out. But I don't think you are. Not to me. Even if you're doing the same things as everyone else. Because you're part of my family, and I love you. Oh, but please don't dye your hair. It would look terrible. Anyway, back on topic. Finally, I wanted to write down the one thing I'd always wanted you to know, but I couldn't. Please forgive me. When you find out someday, somewhere, you're going to despise me, and you're going to hate me. But please, never doubt my love for you. We need a bit redeeming for hydration. I guess we could do a hydrate. I don't have to hydrate much. I'm usually pretty good. But this game, because of the constant reading, drains me. I love you. If you can believe that no matter what those feelings are real, that's enough to make me happy. It's time for me to go. I'm sorry for being so selfish, Takaru, and I'll say it one more time, but don't think about revenge. Don't do anything dangerous. Forget everything and live the same life as everyone else does, but don't get buried among the crowd. I pray that you never read this letter. So her big secret was that was that she loves him? Oh. Huh? Tears started to pour from my eyes as soon as I finished. I tried to wipe them away, but they wouldn't stop. I fell to the floor holding Nono's letter in my hands. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't stop sobbing. As I cried aloud in my mind, I was apologizing to Nono over and over again. He's calling her Nono. Same time. Frisia Incorporated. I see. Yes, understood. Miyashiro is at the killer's house, he says. Amose moved the phone away from her ear and relayed Shinjo's message to Kunosato. Kunosato stopped typing at her computer and grabbed the phone away from her. Shinjo, put Miyashiro on. I want to ask him something. She must have not liked the answer she got because she looked annoyed. Then bring him here as soon as you can. I've more or less finished my search of the data. I just sent you a message with the results. Give him a swift kick in the ass and tell him he can cry later. Momose arched her eyebrow as Kunosato hung up. That was a little harsh, don't you think? It's the truth. That's not what I meant, Momose began. You know what it's like to lose someone close to you, too. Kunosato looked down as if searching her own feelings. But then she looked up like nothing had happened and turned back to her computer. Oh, her big secret was something else, but she wanted to reassure him that she loves him if he ever does find out. Oh, okay, okay. I only care about myself. The idea of a boy and girl who've both lost loved ones they've loved counseling one another disgusts me. I don't give sympathy, and I don't want it either. I think that sympathy is part of being kind, you know. And I think there's nothing that pushes a person away so much as saying, I know how you feel, so hang in there. You don't have to say anything. People can just tell. Being able to do that is a part of being an adult. Kunosato chuckled as she looked at the screen. I'm a minor. And then Momose chuckled too. That's the problem, isn't it? She sighed. Oh, Arimura, you can go to sleep, you know. You haven't gotten any rest, right? Kunosato turned and saw that Arimura had gotten off the sofa. She looked like she wanted to say something, but instead she just took a deep breath. I'm fine. Anyway, what did you find? Arimura looked genuinely relieved when she heard that they'd found Miyashiro. I see. I'm glad. Arimura, have you ever heard anything about Onoue's past? Kunosato suddenly looked away from the monitor and spoke to her. Huh? Onoue's past. She was in elementary school, for example. When she was in elementary school. She was caught off guard by the sudden question, but Arimura was able to answer quickly. Just that she was Miyashiro's friend, nothing else. She'd only gotten to know Serika about a month ago, and all they ever talked about was the case. She didn't know a lot about Serika's private life. Yeah, the two Miyos in these games are quite different. Did she ever lie about her past? It doesn't matter how small it was. I don't think so. Sari, she didn't lie very much. That was the truth. Arimura was capable of recognizing even common courtesies and jokes as lies. That's why she knew how filled with lies most people's conversations were. And that was the real reason why everything she said at school was a joke. Nothing made her more upset than when she was talking about something serious and the person she was speaking with responded with a lie. That's why she told jokes. Everyone around her joked back. It was a lot easier that way. But out of all the people she knew, Ito and Serika from the newspaper club were some of the ones who lied the least. They just weren't any good at it. But to Arimura, that was a greater blessing than the others could imagine. That was why it had been such a shock. It might not have been as bad for her as it was for Miyashiro, but she felt like she'd been betrayed by someone who was more than a friend. When Kunosato realized that she wasn't going to get anything useful out of Arimura, she turned back to her computer. Are you finding anything out about her? Nothing. We're getting nowhere. She sighed and flicked the monitor with her fingers. This is a detective agency, and we've got Shinjo's network too. Finding people and doing background checks should be the easiest thing in the world. But I can't find any information on her that dates back before middle school. The first time we see any information is November 2009. Arimura gasped. That's the month of the Shibuya earthquake, isn't it? More specifically, 2 weeks after the quake, on November 21st. I found her records at a hospital affiliated with AH Tokyo General. But there's no data from before that, no birth certificate, no school records, not even a family register. And what's more, Kunosato's face took an even sterner look as she called up another medical chart. It belonged to Takaru Miyashiro. Come on, don't leave me hanging like that. It's like when you're getting to the interesting parts. So, crazy theory time. For why not? Last, I have not actually started Future Redeemed. I could have started last night, but because of the Street Fighter open beta, I decided to play that instead. Since, limited time. And I want to make sure, since I do plan on picking up that game, I want to make sure I actually enjoy it. And for everything I've played, yeah, I enjoy it. I wonder if Serika is actually Senri. I wonder if she's Senri Minamisawa, and that's why she's latched on to Takaru like this. I don't know. Sorry, thanks for the meal. Don't worry. To be honest, I'm sick of the stuff. After I finished eating the calorie block, Shinjo threw the wrapper in the trash. Whenever he was running around on a case, he always kept 2 or 3 with him, he said. I ate them a lot too, so I knew what he meant about being sick of them. I eat the chocolate ones a lot. I see. I didn't know how long I'd been crying, but it was the first time I'd cried until my lungs and throat hurt. Shinjo had offered me a handkerchief and quietly waited a long time for me to finish. After I'd fallen silent and I couldn't find any new tears to wipe away with the handkerchief, my stomach suddenly rumbled. Until then, I hadn't even felt like drinking water, but after a full day of no food, my body had begun to demand it. Shinjo was fiddling with his cell phone. He seemed to be checking his messages. Then he turned to me questioningly. Miyashiro, sorry, but I need to ask you something. I could tell he was asking me if that would be okay. It felt like the tears were about to start again, but I held them back. I looked down at Nono's letter. I'd been holding it so hard it had gotten crumpled in my hands. Don't think about revenge. Don't do anything dangerous. Not sure what those random letters were, but sure. I didn't pre-order anything, Soulcaster. I think the open beta just had jury. Hey, Horizon. Welcome. I know. I'm fine, Nono. I'm fine, Nono. I'm not fine at all. I'm not, but I'm fine. I touched the letter as gently as I could. And then I looked at Shinjo with tear-swollen eyes and nodded. Go ahead. What is it? It's about Serika Onoe. Kunosato, me, and Momose have all looked into her, and there's just too much we don't know. Just tell me what you remember. Give me your oldest memory of her, preferably of the time when you first met. I wasn't sure how to process the complicated feelings I felt when he asked me that question. It was painful and unreal to think that my oldest friend was a killer. It made me furious that I'd lost my best friend and both my sisters at the same time. It made me sad to think of the letter that Nono had written to me and to realize that I might never feel better again. And it made me feel pathetic to realize how I didn't want to admit that Serika Onoe was the cause of it all. Oh, that might be because you played on PS4. Well, are you thinking about the demo, Soulcaster, or are you talking about the open beta? There's an open beta right now, but I think it's only on PS5 and Xbox Series X and probably PC. Yeah, I played the open beta, not the demo in this case. It all mixed together, and like a swamp that threatened to draw me down, it pulled me deeper inside the abyss of my memories. When I first met Onoe, it was before I had started elementary school. I couldn't remember the exact date. She was my next door neighbor and would come over to play a lot. Yes, that's right. I was born in 1997. Excuse me. So if it was the same year I started elementary school, it would be around 2004. We played together almost every day. She was like a little sister to me. I remembered that at first. I'd read her my picture books that I'd only just learned to read myself. And her family was a lot like mine. Right, I'll tell you about mine though. Finally getting Takaru's history. I was an only child and both of my parents worked. They both worked in an IT company back when there weren't very many of those. I think they met each other there. Work was all they cared about. It was only years later that I learned that normal people didn't eat all 3 meals with a babysitter. About the time I started elementary school, I started going online using one of their old computers. It was common for me to be up past midnight even then, but my parents didn't know. I think they didn't care. I can remember at least 2 birthdays where they just left me a present and a note saying they were sorry they couldn't make it. The year after the last one, there wasn't a present. And the year after that, there wasn't even a note. Part of the way through elementary school, I mostly stopped going. Yeesh. I think it was 3rd grade. My mom happened to be home, so she picked up the phone when the teacher called. She looked annoyed when she talked to them. She said her husband was the one who took care of all that and hung up. She didn't tell me to go to school or even that I didn't have to go, and Dad didn't even know the teacher's name. At the time, I learned online that this was what they called low-level child neglect. Sarika was the same. Actually, she was worse. She always used to tell me I was lucky because I got a card. Oh, a credit card. I didn't have a babysitter then, so I had to get my own food. Once I learned how to use the card, I would split the food I bought with Sarika. I don't think her parents hit her or anything either. Oh, there was one time she came over to my house really scared. Her parents had tried to force her to go to a hospital, she said. Now, I don't know the details, but they said all kinds of mean things about how she was crazy and how she wasn't normal. So I think it was a psychologist or a psychiatrist or someone who worked at a hospital like that. She cried a long, long time. I let her stay in my room for a while. My parents never cleaned it, and they never looked inside it. Yeah, thinking back, we were probably together all the time when I was little. No, I've never met Sarika's parents. She said they were almost never home. I don't think I ever went to her home either. They didn't have a computer, so there was no need to go. It is a weekend-only beta right now, so it's probably going to end. I don't know exactly when it ends, but I'd have to guess like midnight Pacific. I'm not sure. I don't think she went to school a lot. I never saw her playing with anyone but me, and we were busy finding information on the internet, so we were much smarter than... No, never mind. When we were in 4th grade, 2 years before the earthquake, we heard a rumor about Amy, an urban legend. We both went to the basement of the hospital to look for it. Yes, AH Tokyo General Hospital. We like stuff like that, both me and her. That's where we saw the experiment being done on Minamisawa. We got scared and ran. I couldn't even imagine what it was that I was seeing back then. That was the first time she and I snuck in anywhere. Sarika, I think she was scared. I remember thinking that I needed to protect her. Yep, that makes complete sense, soy sauce. Takaru being raised by the internet. Eesh, that's rough. But we were both about equally excited. It was a chance to know something no one else knew. Sarika told me I should go to school and tell everyone what I saw, and so I did. Everyone told me I was lying, of course. So then I started going even less. I started researching the sumo stickers and stuff. We tried making a webpage about it together. When we were in 6th grade, the New Generation Madness happened. That was 2009. It was like we'd gone crazy. At first, we couldn't believe that something like that was happening in the city we lived in. We spent almost a whole day glued to the computer, following the news. When something big like that's going on, if you take your eyes off the internet for even a few hours, you'll get left behind. We stayed up all night in shifts following the case. Sometimes we'd use our cell phones to read the internet as we actually went out to the crime scenes and took pictures. More murders kept happening, and eventually they started to say Takumi Nishijo was the killer, but that turned out to be wrong. Sarika and I were both very excited. He seemed so cool. Proving your innocence means getting the right information, and shoving it in the face of the people whose information was bad, right? It seemed like the ultimate expression of what I was trying to do then, and I guess I'm still trying to do now with the newspaper club. Sarika said he was amazing. I agreed. When the earthquake happened, Sarika and I were near the O Front building. Nishijo was doing something there, and we wanted to see. And then there was this high-pitched noise and everything went white. And then it happened. At first, we didn't think it was an earthquake. We thought it was a bomb or something. The ground bounced up and down like a trampoline, and several of the telephone poles near us fell over. I could hear screaming and the sound of breaking glass. Someone yelled earthquake, and that's how I knew it was an earthquake. Anyway, Sarek and I ran away so we wouldn't get caught up in the people panicking. We didn't know where we were running, but we didn't want to be there. We got caught up in the crowds, and Sarek and I were quickly separated. When that happened, I got scared, and all of a sudden, I couldn't move. I got pushed over and fell, and then I crawled behind something. The shaking had stopped, but what had scared me more than the quake was the way everyone around me had changed in an instant. I spent a long time in that spot, unable to move. The idea of going home never occurred to me. There was no way I could rely on my parents for help, and at the time, I thought that no place in Shibuya was still standing. I didn't know what to do. And then I found Sarika passed out near me. She must have been pushed down and hit her head, or maybe she hadn't been able to handle what she was seeing because she was passed out. I decided that I had to save her. The information online said that Yoyogi was relatively undamaged and the hospitals were accepting patients. I carried her on my back and started walking there. And then... No, never mind. Anyway, I kept walking, and finally I reached AH Tokyo General Hospital, which had been turned into a temporary shelter. Sarika looked like she was in pain the whole way there. She didn't wake up. I saw my parents there, and then I collapsed from a terrible headache. That's all I remember from the earthquake. When I woke up, I was in Alba Dorm, and a year had passed while I was in a coma. And that's where I met Nono and the others. I'm sorry, I'm fine. I heard what happened from Nono and Sarika. Sarika woke up at the hospital and saw me unconscious. She stayed with me the whole time, and when AH Tokyo General overflowed, I was moved to the one with the other hospitals in their network, one of the other hospitals in their network, and she came with me. She wasn't in good shape either, and I guess she didn't want to go home. She refused to leave my side, and when the people from the hospital saw her, they put her into care, counseling, I mean. Her parents died in the earthquake, she said. So did mine. Given the circumstances, the hospital didn't seem to mind her staying there with me, but once things started to calm down, they sent her home. She found some relatives who agreed to help her get a place, the one she has now, and then every day she came to visit me in the hospital. No, I don't know. I think she said they were relatives who lived a long way away. No, I don't know their names. I'm sorry. Some time passed, and since there was nobody to take me in, I was moved to Alba Dorm. But she still stayed with me the whole time. That's when she met Nono, I guess. They were good friends. When I woke up after more than a year, I had trouble moving. Nono helped me with my physical therapy. Sarika would come check on me all the time, and Nono would happily tell her my progress. Family was very, very important to Nono, and Sarika was the one person outside of the family she called by her first name, not her last. The two of them would go out and visit all the different crepe shops in Shibuya, and since Sarika didn't have any interest in makeup or clothes, Nono would take her shopping for them. They really were good friends. But after my therapy ended and I could walk, I started going to school more and more. Yes, that middle school. I was given special permission to be in second year along with the other kids my age. Sarika did the same as a first-year student. After the earthquake, while I was in a coma, she'd started going to school. It was hard living on her own, but Nona would take care of her and her relatives sent her plenty of money. She seemed to be doing better than she was at her old house. No, there was nothing strange, I think. Why does it feel like Sarika is almost not a real person? I went to Hekiho Academy because they offered free tuition for orphans of the earthquake. A year later, so did Sarika. We both joined the newspaper club and did things there. It was exactly as you saw it, I think. She spent a lot of time with us at school, but she had her own friends in her own class. She wasn't part of any of their groups, but it didn't seem like they were ignoring her or anything. I'd never seen her with anybody suspicious, and she wasn't the type of person to keep secrets. When I didn't have a charger, she'd just hand me her phone and let me use it. That was the kind of girl she was. Yes. Serica was a normal high school kid, just like us. Oh boy, what's happening on the streets of Shibuya? Oh boy, we're seeing Serica. What is up with this? Serica was running. She was out of breath and had a terrible headache. There was sweat all over her body, and it wasn't from exhaustion. Running a few minutes wasn't enough to tire her out. Compared to what she had to do with her mind and body to commit the murders, this was nothing at all. Crap. She touched a small cut on her stomach as she ran. She felt slick blood, a sensation she was long since tired of. She would probably have to stitched up, but if her organs weren't ruptured, she'd be fine. She was used to getting stitches without anesthetic. She didn't even need a towel to bite down on to relieve the pain. The needle didn't even need to be a medical one. But this terrible headache was new to her. Serica stopped when she saw there was no one around. You're slowing me down. She punched the wound on her stomach hard 2 or 3 times. Yeah, that'll help. The sensation of a fierce external pain, a sensation she was used to, ran up her spine. She'd hoped that it would alleviate the pain of her headache. She hoped that her brain would decide the pain of her open wound was more important than the headache. But the headache didn't stop. It felt like a cold needle was being driven into her head with every heartbeat, as her mind screamed at her that something was terribly wrong. She knew why. Just struggling against his power did this to me, huh? Her head hurt, but her mind was still capable of clarity. Her foe was far stronger than she'd expected. SP-390, Mind Control. An unimaginably horrible form of hypnosis, which could make anyone do whatever you wanted. When he was an ally, she thought it was the greatest power imaginable. Now that he was an enemy, it seemed like the worst. Who was this? No, that's not right, she laughed to herself. He hadn't been an ally. He hadn't been a helper or a co-conspirator either. If you could call him anything, he was a blackmailer. Okay, who the hell is this? So it was 2 people. The phone in her hand trembled. It wasn't the one she used when she pretended to be a normal person. She destroyed that a while ago, so that the police couldn't track her. It was the one he'd given her for communicating with him. It probably belonged to someone they'd killed, or perhaps he'd used mind control to steal it from someone who never even knew it was gone. She stared at the screen for a moment, but finally decided to answer it. So what's her power? How's your stomach? Sorry, you attacked so suddenly my body just moved on its own. Liar, you were expecting it. I could read your mind. Ah, so she can read minds, he has mind control. Right. He must have found something funny because the man on the other end laughed. That's just like you. That's the way it should be, though. So, you can at least tell me why, right? You know damn well why. Serica's voice was filled with rage. He knew, and yet he asked anyway. He was either a sadist or some kind of sick hedonist. Okay. So it's a guy that's actually the mastermind behind all this. It's not going to be a new character. So we only have so many guys left. It's either Shinjo, who's unlikely because this is happening at the same time, Gen, who I kind of really doubt, or that damn homeroom teacher who has a picture of himself when he seems like such a minor character. So we'll see. Not homeroom teacher, but the club teacher. The methods he came up for his murders always felt like one big joke. Why did you make Takaru Miyashiro out to be the killer? The plan was to make it look like Senri Minamisawa was behind this. Are you saying I was responsible? Of course you were, asshole, she thought. A warrant had been put out for Miyashiro only a few hours after Nono Kurisu's death, and in a way that would normally never be possible. There was no way they'd give a miner's real name out in that span of time, unless he had used his power. What the hell are you thinking? He's learned too much. I'm actually compromising, for your sake. What? Your mind-reading power has helped me a lot. I might have had to kill him, but instead, I'm just going to have him arrested as the killer. She hated the fact that she was on the phone. Without being able to see him, she couldn't read his mind. She wanted to know what he was really thinking. It's just better for your plans if he's the criminal, not Senri Minamisawa, right? He'll be locked away where he can't tell anyone anything, and the press will think that he was the one who killed his sisters and talk about the story even more. That will attract even more attention to the sumo stickers. And do you seriously expect me to believe he'll get off with just an arrest? As of the first murder on September 7th, Takaru Miyashiro was 18 years old. There were 7 victims. No miner has ever committed that many murders. The way public opinion's going, there's a 99% chance he'll get the death penalty. Did you think that I wouldn't know that? We won't know until he goes to trial, will we? And when that happens, you'll be controlling the whole thing. Sarika yelled at her into her phone and the man started laughing again. It's so weird to hear Sarika like this. It almost seems like a different voice actor. She didn't know if it was because she'd yelled or because his laughter pissed her off, but the headache got worse, which only made her madder. You really are great. Why not come back to me? Your power's of great value to me, and you're smart. You have guts too. Shut the hell up. His safety was the one condition I had for helping you. You're also stubborn. I don't care about anything but that. So she didn't... Wow, so she never wanted to kill him. So why did... Takaru Miyashiro's survival. That was the one thing she'd cared about since she came into this world. Being a murderer, being accomplice to murder, using her mind-reading powers to find psychics, she'd done it all for that reason. But now... So let me ask you then, what will you do now? You're not going to take him and run, are you? Sarika managed to stop herself from speaking. He was right. She thought it was the only way. That's impossible, and you know it. We won't know until we try. Your power is a threat, but maybe there's not much someone so low on the committee's totem pole can actually do, is there? That's why he'd come to her for help, right? She thought this was her only chance to save Miyashiro. The police don't have him yet. That's because you don't know where he is, do you? You've got me there. That's right. I'm all the way at the bottom of the org chart. I don't even know who the main members are. And then he spoke in a voice that sounded a little too deliberate. She could sense his lips curling into a smile. Maybe I'll start with Frisia. She finally gave a small gasp. She thought that's where he was hiding too. How did he know about Frisia? When she whispered that to herself, he said, "Listen, they told me all about Frisia. Don't you know how much he and Nono trusted me?" It's his dad. It's his dad. Die, asshole. Sarika hung up the phone and started to run, ignoring the pounding in her head. Yep, totally his dad. I see. So that's it, Kunosato said in a voice that was almost too soft to hear. And then she put her hand up to her head and started to think. I told Kunosato the same thing I just told Shinjo. Shinjo had brought me back to Frisia and given me a stern warning not to leave again. Then he'd quickly gone back to his investigation, in theory, looking for me. Really? Stop being stupid, Miyashiro. I don't know, he might have the most sense right now to get the hell out of there. That's right. Arimura was crying and screaming. They're going to arrest Miyashiro. It was a mess. I was not crying. Both Arimura and Momose were worried about me. I was glad for that. The only ones who knew the truth were the three of them, Shinjo, Kazuki, and Uki. We may have had different goals, but if nothing else, they knew I wasn't the killer, and they were working to find the real killer, Sarika. Only now did I realize how stupid it was for me to run away. Compared to this morning, the thick fog on my brain had lifted a little. No, I'm fine. Don't think about revenge. Don't do anything dangerous. Live the same life as everyone else does, but don't get buried among the crowd. Boy, our translations are really rough right now. The words in the letter were like heavy weights, keeping me grounded. Miyashiro, Arimura. Huh? Kunosato turned away from the computer screen and toward us. Her expression was even sterner than usual. I've said this before, I think, but I'm absolutely certain that the white light seen during the Shibuya earthquake is in some way responsible for your powers. You know there was a planetarium near the epicenter of the quake, right? That planetarium was bought out by a certain company, and according to Shinjo's investigations, after that purchase, suspicious men were seen there many times. And at the same time, there were multiple witnesses to incidents that sound like real booting. We also know that this company is deeply related to AH Tokyo General Hospital. So, what are you saying? This is just a hypothesis, but I believe that just like that basement facility, the planetarium was being used for some kind of gigalomaniac-related experiments. But that earthquake destroyed the planetarium, or no, it's also possible that one of its experiments went wrong and caused the earthquake. Either way, they were experimenting on some factor that created gigalomaniacs, which was then scattered around the surrounding area. I think that's what I think what that white light was. Some kind of material that brought out the gigalomaniac powers from your brains, I guess. It might not have been matter, but it could have been electromagnetic waves, energy, or something similar. Oh, so like an allergen. Not even close. Don't use words whose meanings you don't really understand. It makes you look like an idiot who needs to shut up. Arimura frowned. The two of them still weren't getting along. And so this causal factor, whatever it was set into the brains of a lot of different people, but not all of them awakened. My research has shown that this only occurred in the young, whose brains were still developing, particularly those experiencing something that put them in states of extreme stress. Right. I nodded. I knew exactly what she was talking about. The nature of their powers is dependent on what that something was, or more accurately, how their minds reacted to it. We've talked about that. The wish you made is what decides your powers, right? More or less. When I'd woken from the earthquake, I'd felt a lot of stress at the way my body wouldn't move. I never wanted to go through that again. Not only was there the stress of not being able to move, there was the terror that came with wondering if I might stay like that forever. That's why I'd gained my power of psychokinesis. When I was telling that to Kunosato, my mind flashed back to how Nono helped me with my physical therapy. She'd done her best to cheer me up, at times kind and gentle, and at times strict. She was always there for me. But now she was... Oh, lass, I feel that. I think we've all had that kind of experience in Fire Emblem. And yeah, he looks pretty good for getting beat up earlier, huh, Cat Evie? No, get a hold of yourself. I forced myself to snap out of it. And then I realized that Kunosato was staring at me. Excuse me? Your power was psychokinesis. The cause was your difficult physical therapy. That's what I thought, wrongly, when I investigated you. For some reason, she looked frustrated. Wrongly? I made the easy assumption, which means I still have a lot of learning to do. I should have thought of Serika Onoe a lot sooner. Huh? What do you mean? What I just said. All the psychics developed their powers after being struck by that white light during the earthquake. My guess is that the earthquake put you under incredible stress and gave you something to wish for, and that was the trigger. That's how it was for you, right, Orimura? Yes. That's what she'd said before, that her powers had awoken during the earthquake, and that the cause was that she wanted to know the truth. The same is true of Uki Yamazoe. Dr. Sakuma's report says that her powers developed right after the earthquake. And Riko Haida, the pyrokinetic. We finally finished our research on her. Kunosato pointed to a corner of her screen. It was displaying the data about the pyrokinetic that had threatened us. Riko Haida was burnt on her face during the earthquake, and like the other psychics, developed her powers immediately afterwards. In her case, it was intense stress caused by despair, and a dark desire to make others share her fate that connected the two. Now you understand, right? Of course, I haven't investigated every psychic, but every single one I know awoke to their powers right after being struck by that white light. No one in my dataset developed their power a year later. I started to understand what Kunosato was trying to say, and then I felt an awful sensation. When I went back over the information, I found that there's always a major side effect whenever a psychic first manifests their power. An unbearable headache. I believe it's due to the expansion of the blood vessels. That's an extremely common reason for headaches, particularly migraines. Some of our data indicates that in the case of a gigalomaniac, the causal factor, or causal probably, factor is the trigger that results in an excess of dopamine and similar neurotransmitters. This in turn results in the swelling. Then she paused. She was probably giving me time to think. So, Miyashiro, did you feel any terrible headaches during your physical therapy? I tried to think, but I couldn't remember any pain in my head, just from the rest of my body, especially my joints. No, I don't think so. Then there should have been a moment during the earthquake when you experienced a terrible headache, just like the other psychics. I could hear my heartbeat loudly. My vision started to blur, and then my heart beat so loud that I could hear it. What were you doing then? I had a bad feeling. What was I doing then? No, let me rephrase that. During the earthquake, what was your wish? Did you want to maybe move away some rubble so that you could avoid some danger? Did that give you your psychokinesis? No, that wasn't what I wanted. My wish then was... Serika, save me. Please. For a moment, it felt like the headache that I experienced during the earthquake had come back, and I grabbed my head in pain. I tried to get the idea out of my head, but it wouldn't disappear. No, that couldn't be right. What's wrong? Kunosato stared at me. Her expression was as stern as ever. Eventually, she did something to her computer. It displayed a different set of data than before. For some reason, it felt like I was being driven further and further into a dark cave. This is Onoe's medical chart. It's dated November 21st, 2009. It was at a hospital affiliated with AH Tokyo General. You said you were a patient here after the earthquake, right? Which means that this is where Onoe would have been given her counseling. But there are no records of Onoe prior to this date. Correct, Momose? We couldn't find her family register or anything else, Momose said, but her voice sounded unreal and far away. That's impossible. Onoe's always been with me since I was a little kid. She lived next door, right? That's right. At the time, you lived in a 6th-floor condo at the end of a hall. Your neighbors were named Arai. They were an elderly couple who retired from the company they ran. They had no children. My heart beat louder. It was aggravating me. It was a strange sensation. I was hearing all the words, but I couldn't understand what they meant. Even my breathing was getting faster. No, she lived next to me. Her parents were neglecting her. Did you ever meet these parents of hers? No, right? You said she didn't have any friends. Before the earthquake, did you actually see her talking to anyone besides you? I hadn't. But that was because she didn't have any friends. When we sometimes went outside, she was always with me, and she never left my side for an instant. Kunosato tapped at the keyboard and the screen changed. This is your chart. It was also found at that hospital. If I'd only found it sooner, she whispered. At some point, I'd started crying. I couldn't see the screen through my blurry vision. It says the cause of your coma was unknown. They probably had no idea of the presence of the causal factor. Instead, it has notes from a psychiatrist at another hospital. Another hospital? Psychiatrist? I'd never been to another hospital. It must have been some mistake. It's dated 2006, so when you were in 3rd grade. Heavily reliant on imaginary friend, it says. Imaginary friend? I wondered if she was like real at this point. Oh, hey Darth Chrono. Yeah, we're definitely in the spoiler section stuff, so I don't blame you. Take care. A friend who only exists in your fantasies. I'm trying to remember back through the rest of the game. It feels like other people reacted to Serica, but maybe they didn't. In my fantasies? That's not true, a voice in my head said over and over. Imaginary friends themselves are very common. It's not a disease. Around 30% of infants have them. There are fans of the occult who say that when an infant talks to empty space, it's because they can see ghosts. I'm sure you've at least heard of those stories, right? They're lying. But very few people maintain their imaginary friends until puberty. It's distinct from dissociative identity disorder, but if you ask me, the symptoms are almost identical. The Onoe you described from before the earthquake was always jealous of you, right? She was also a neglected child, but she said that you were better off than her. I tried to yell at her to stop, but my throat hurt too much for me to speak. The taste of blood filled my mouth. I must have bit my lip. I'd started crying without even realizing it. The vast majority of imaginary friends are friendly. That's because they fulfill the desire for esteem. No. Transference of negative facts onto an imaginary friend is actually something more commonly seen in identity disorders, but I'm telling you, you're wrong. Kunosato's words were cold and uncompromising. It wasn't Onoe who was told that she was crazy or abnormal. It was you, and you transferred that onto her, Takaru Miyashiro. Don't lie to me. Miyashiro. I felt a soft hand on my shoulder and turned to look. It was Arimura. She looked at me like I was a young child in need of tender care. Stop it. Don't look at me that way. Kunosato is telling the truth. All the feelings inside me went cold when I heard her words. Arimura said she was telling the truth, so she was. But then, I didn't want it to be true, because if it was, then I'm the one who killed Nono. Then that means in the end, I'm the one who killed her. That's enough, Mio Kunosato. I suddenly heard a voice. What? I turned around and saw someone in front of the door. It was someone I knew well. Okay, what the hell are we getting into? Going away? That's right. It was Sarika Onoe. She was different in every way from how she'd been at the newspaper club. There was an expression on her face that I couldn't read at all. You... Wait, I'm not here to fight. The hell you aren't. It's true. Hine Arimura, can you put that away? Arimura had unleashed her D-sword. She was glaring at Sarika and pointing it straight at her. If I wanted to hurt you, I wouldn't just walk in the door like this. Wait. Why was Sarika here? What was she doing? Okay, how did Sarika become real? Did he cause his delusion of her to become real? Holy hell. He made a person. Was she saying she wasn't here to fight to make me let my guard down and then kill me? No, forget that. Why did she kill Nono? All these thoughts slipped through my mind before I could really think about any of them. But then they all came together to form the biggest question of all. Did I create her? That's right. It's just as you're thinking, Takaru Miyashiro. Sarika was looking me dead in the eye. Was she reading my mind? It felt like she could read everything I was thinking. You created me during the earthquake. What she said was the one thing I didn't want to admit. So I found myself looking toward Arimura, who had drawn her D-sword and readied it again. Arimura nodded slowly without taking her eyes off of Sarika. I knew that was her way of saying she was telling the truth, but still, my heart refused to admit it. That's a lie. It has to be. Because Sarika wasn't as important to me as Nono. A phone started to vibrate in someone's pocket. Sarika's expression changed infinitesimally. That's my phone. I'm putting my hand in my pocket. I won't take out anything else. So, got it? Sarika looked at Arimura as she spoke. Arimura was instantly able to tell if she was telling the truth. What she's saying is true. Put it on speaker. You're a suspicious woman. Sarika nodded and took out her phone. She went to put it on speaker mode, but before she did, she looked up. Her eyes met with mine. Takaru Miyashiro, get ready for something else. You're about to be hit with something that's the same as or greater than anything that's come before. I don't want to see your mind destroyed. What are you saying, Sarika? Before I could ask, she put her hand to the phone and answered the call. Hey, did you make it to Frisia? I'd heard that voice before, but I couldn't tell whose it was. No, that wasn't right. I didn't want to. It was rare to hear his voice from Sarika's phone anyway. Whenever he needed something, he would always call me or Nono. How did you know I was here? I guess that's a stupid question. Yeah, I knew if I told you that, you'd go running straight there. I'd never seen Sarika spit like that. And this time, her face was red with anger. So how's it look? Is Takaru there? When I heard the name Takaru, I shivered. I knew it. There was no way I could mistake that voice. Yeah, it's very much a terrible day to last. Holy crap. I knew why Sarika had told me to be ready for a shock. That voice. Hey, Takaru, you there, right? It's me. It was the voice of my father, Wataru Sakuma. Holy crap. I couldn't speak. The ground beneath me seemed to shift, and I felt sick. The phone seemed to stick out clearly while everything else faded away. Dr. Sakuma? So that's it, huh? They knew everything we were up to then. Hey, Takaru, you listening? Hello? Dad? Why? Soy-Sa saying, Nono mentioned how only Takaru was in the basement looking at Senri, but then the earthquake hadn't happened, so Sarika didn't exist outside of Takaru's head. Yeah. And then now the story focus is shifting to Serika and Takaru. It's worth mentioning that a lot of the background and unresolved plot threads of the other characters, Nono, Arimura, Uki, etc., don't get answered until their character roots, which are canon. Oh, wow. So I'm guessing what you're saying by that is we don't actually learn Nono's secret during this. Oh, so you are there. What? Onoue hasn't told you yet? Told me what? Told me what? Oh, wow. So we don't learn until we... Wow. So, I'll say this right now, Soy Sauce. If there's a way for you to break down those other plot threads, I'd appreciate it. Because we're not doing multiple playthroughs. And why was Dad calling Serika's phone? Onoue and I had planned the whole thing. I didn't understand what he meant, but I could hear my heart pounding loudly. We planned the whole thing from the start. There was a lot of work, you know. Onoue and I had to work as a team to get all this stuff ready. We were not a team. I flinched away from her. Serika was staring at the phone with a look on her face that I'd never seen before. But it's the truth, isn't it? We both worked hard to kill them all. Utani, the precog. Takiyanagi, the one who controlled emotions. The mind reader, what was his name? The one who worked at Koshin. Well, it doesn't matter. Watabe, Haida, and Yui and Nono too. You and I accomplished all that together. That was my dad's voice. There was no mistaking it. Yeah, when the common root is ended, yeah. The names Yui and Nono echoed in my mind. Accomplished? Together? I felt like I needed to vomit. The taste of stomach acid rose into my mouth. I fell to my knees, unable to stand. Drool and vomit dribbled out of the corner of my mouth and onto the floor. Arimura was saying something to me. I could hear the words, but I couldn't understand them. This was a dream. It was just a bad dream because... Why would Dad do that? Look up. Dad and Serika had killed them? Killed Yui? Killed Nono? Killed two of our family? Look at me. What? What the hell? That didn't make any sense at all. What the hell is going on? They hinted at Nono's secret very heavily in Nono's monologue before her fight with Serika. Yeah, I'm not sure. I can't remember, to be honest. Our eyes met. Serika was looking at me, her expression fierce. Everything will be fine. She looked straight into my eyes. I'm here for you. Everything will be fine. Fine? How could anything be fine? That's quite the statement. Serika's eyes narrowed as she looked at Kunosato. Don't worry, Mio Kunosato. I have no intention of trying to make you understand. Nor do I want to be on your people's side. Kunosato and Arimura went pale. You. So that's your power. Mind reading. You're sharp. That's right. The same thing Kakita had. Hey, Taku, you listening? Come on, tell me you're there. Dad, why? What's going on? I told you. Onoue and I did it all. But why? Wataru Sakuma works for the committee. Serika said the words like she was disgusted by it. And when Kunosato heard it, her face filled with anger. More precisely, a very small organization that works for them. He was one of the ones doing gigalomaniac research in that basement. They decided that the psychics accidentally created by the Shibuya earthquake were a threat to their plans, and so they hunted them down and killed them. I helped in exchange for their promise to allow you to live. I felt like I couldn't breathe. The air was just leaking out of my mouth. Dad was what? Onoe, are you seriously planning to take Takaru and run? You broke your promise. I'll do what I want. That's not what I mean. Do you even think that's possible? Just a second. Yeah, seems okay. Just turn on the TV. Any channel is fine. What? Just do it. You've got a TV there, right? Someone, probably Mimose, turned on the TV. The voice of a TV announcer filled the room. Breaking news on the Shibuya serial killings. This case has attracted a lot of attention because the police used the suspect's real name despite his being a minor. Takaru Miyashiro, who is wanted as a person of interest in the case, has just sent a message to the media. What? Serika turned and looked at me. I don't understand. I didn't do that. The message, delivered in the form of an email, says that he plans to take his life tomorrow in the middle of the Shibuya Restoration Festival. The police say that the message contains information known only to them and the killer, and so they decided that it was sent by Takaru Miyashiro himself. I could hear myself let out a short scream. What the hell was this? What was going on? Sakuma, you? Well, you said you were going to take Takaru and run away, so I had to come up with something to get you to change your mind. Don't worry, that part of that about taking his own life was just an exaggeration. Everybody participating in the festival tomorrow, which is to say everybody in the city, will be searching for him so that they can watch him die. He can try hiding at Frisia, but all I have to do is leak a little bit of information on the internet, and that will be the end of that. There's no place for him to hide. Scum. Onoe, what will you do? If you're willing to give up on Takaru, I'd still like to work with you. There's still hunting to be done, after all. There was a short silence. Hearing the two of them talk about me didn't seem real. It was like watching the world from the other side of a pane of glass. Fine. But I have one condition. Oh, what's that? Let me kill you. Huh? Where are you right now? Tell me so I can come kill you. His voice suddenly cut off. There was a heavy silence as he tried to figure out what she meant. In other words, the answer is no. Takaru Miyashiro is the reason I exist. I won't let anyone hurt him. Are you serious? It's been 6 years since I became real during the earthquake. I've been killing people for you ever since. Don't underestimate me. Was she the one responsible for the original game? What the heck? I heard what sounded like an animal's laugh. Committee of 300 is a grand conspiracy that exists within the Psy Adventure series. Shares the name with a rumored grand conspiracy in our world. Oh, okay. Jeez. It was my father's laugh, the one I'd always heard at Alba Dorm. Ah, it's so cute when they're stubborn. You just got your stomach ripped open and you think you can kill me. Fine, I'll play along. Come to where it all began, okay? Where it all began. You don't know what I mean? Where everything about this case, no, this and that one the one happened 6 years ago, where all of that began. There, huh? That's right. Let's see if we can't match the time too. It'll be more dramatic that way. It's the perfect place for you to die, isn't it? Of course, bring Takaru too. Serika didn't exist until after the earthquake, which was Chaos. I guess that's true. It's Chaos Head's ending. Timeline. I have trouble getting it all teamed up. So now it's like almost want to look up the plot to Chaos Head to see what the heck happened here. Like what all those reveals were. Because geez, everyone but me was looking at Serika on her phone. I was still kneeling on the floor, unable to move. It is now midnight, November 6th. Our next top story. Whew, we've reached the final chapter. Takaru Miyashiro. Depending on how long this is, we could finish it next time. Each time I took a breath, more cold, nasty sweat poured out of my body. What was going on? What the hell was happening? I've been asking myself the same question for a long time now. Can you stand up? Sarika slowly offered me her hand. Her voice was different, but it was the same Sarika. Yeah. I went to grab her hand and stand up like I always did. And then I smacked it away without thinking. No, that's not what you want to do. My head was still a mess from everything that had happened, but I could feel my temperature rising. Similar to Sarika's bloody handprint, the shifting background image in the pause menu also has the chance of displaying the words Committee of 300. Those pieces of info have been there since the start of the game. Oh, wow. I thought once more of my sister's death, and my rage was just barely enough to support me. I stood up and glared at Sarika. The urge to vomit had left me at some point. That's right, she killed Nono. Sarika held the hand I knocked away close. She looked back at me. Why are you looking like that? Like you're hurt. There is nothing else I could do. Nono Kurisu knew who I was. What? I had to keep you alive without being mind-controlled myself, and she was in the way. Without warning, her body floated up and slammed into a nearby wall. There wasn't even time to think about it. I used my power without even realizing I'd done so. What the hell are you talking about? You and Nono were... We were friends. We weren't friends. I have no friends. She knew what I was thinking. That's my ability. I've used it to keep you safe. Ever since you created me. Keep me safe? You liar. I'm not lying. Stop lying. What? Why are you smiling? You never change. Whenever you encounter information you don't like, your first instinct is to run away, isn't it? That hasn't changed since you were little. Stop it. It was like that when you created me. Stop it. You created me, and keeping you alive was the only thing that mattered. Nothing else was important. You can talk about the old times after you're dead. There was a low, fierce voice. It came from Kunosato. She went over to Sarika and grabbed her by the neck, then slammed her into the wall. You don't mind, do you? Jeez. I could hear a horrible creaking sound from Sarika's neck. Maybe she couldn't breathe because her mouth looked like it was gasping for air. The way you committee people think means you can do whatever you want to the people who don't matter, right? Stop it, Mio. Shut up. I'm going to kill her. That's not like you. Your thoughts are a mess. It's like your whole head is boiling over. What? I helped the committee, but I never belonged to them. I have nothing to do with what happened to you in America. Stop reading my mind. Sheesh. She couldn't have friends because Takaru creator is a fret person with no friends. Yep. Kunosato's hands dug deeper into Sarika's throat. What are you talking about? You think about it. That's why I can see it. Well, I guess it's impossible not to think of something like that. I've never really seen the white bear effect for myself like this before. Don't know that term. A strange phenomenon observed in human thought. People who are told to suppress certain thoughts or not remember certain things actually think and remember more strongly than those people who are not subjected to such suppression. The name white bear effect comes from an actual experiment where subjects were shown a photograph of a white bear and told not to think of it. All right. You. I'm not making fun of you. Would you take your hands off of me? I told you I'm here to talk, and if you want, I'll tell you everything I know about the committee. With Arimura's help, you can know if what I'm saying is true, right? Serika glanced at Arimura. Arimura took a frightened step back and then looked at the two of them. I have a feeling it's kind of like Arimura, where she's just inundated with people's thoughts at all time. Kunosato let go violently. Her hands were shaking and there were red marks on Serika's throat. Kunosato took a long breath to calm herself down. Tell me everything you know, including what you know about the case. Like you said with Arimura here, there's no point in trying to lie. Yeah. Finally getting a breakdown of all this crap. And don't read my thoughts when you talk. When I think of a psychic looking inside what's inside my head, it makes me sick. Fine. Is that okay with you? Serika suddenly looked at me. I couldn't speak. Why was she asking me? You want to know the truth, right? What? You came up with a lot of theories in the newspaper club room as you tried to figure out the case. You got pretty far, but you made a mistake at the end. You weren't able to find out about Sakuma or his organization. I made a mistake? That's right. I screwed up at the very end. I know everything. Everything about the case you spent so much time trying to figure out. Her words made me angry. Boy, what a personality shift. It was as if she was going to tell me everything as a favor. Don't insult me. I don't care about the case anymore. What? Serika seemed surprised. What difference did it make now? Yui and Nono were gone because I tried to solve the case. They weren't coming back. And don't think about revenge. Don't do anything dangerous. Forget everything and live the same life as everyone else does, but don't get buried among the crowd. I'm not going to do anything else that's dangerous. So it's Nono Kurisu's fault. Damn it, she was reading my thoughts again. Don't worry, I won't put you in danger. In fact, it would help me a lot if you stayed safe. But you need to hear about the committee and the case. You'll need it to protect yourself. And... Stop it. I screamed. I couldn't take it anymore. Stop it, Serika. Stop talking like you're on my side. You were the one who killed Yui and Ikurisu. You were the one who did that to Ito. You're prioritizing your feelings over the facts. Is that what a right-sider is supposed to do? Shut up. I know that. But what if I can't help it? I can't just calm down and listen to you. Just try to keep a cool head for now. This will end soon, and no matter what happens, you'll never see me again. What? So just stay calm and listen, for now. You only have to help me for 24 hours at most. And Mio Kunosato? Serika pointed to the girl who'd been strangling her only a few moments ago. Let's make a trade. I'll grant your wish, so I want you to keep Takaru Miyashiro safe. What? What did you say? I'll start from the beginning. If you have questions, ask them. But can I sit down first? A stomach injury opened when I got slammed into the wall. Serica went to the sofa and sat on the edge. Huh? Only then did I remember what Dad had just said. That he'd cut open Serica's stomach. When she sat down, she put a hand on her stomach for a second, and I saw that it was stained with blood. But what was eerie was her attitude. She'd been careful not to put pressure on it when she sat down, but she didn't look hurt. It was as if injuries like that were an everyday occurrence for her, and she's given up on things ever getting better. The Serica I'd always known seemed like a different person. If Sakuma attacked you, does that mean he has a D-sword too? Should I start by talking about Sakuma then? Serica didn't even bother wiping the blood off her fingers. No. Arimura, come over here. What? You sit down too. This is going to take a while. If she lies, tell me right away. Oh boy, time for some plot dump. Jeez. Oh yeah, that dad is totally going to mind control something. Like, how do you fight something like that when he can mind control people? Kunosato didn't wait for Arimura's answer. She turned back and sat down across from Serica. Arimura still looked scared of her, but... Okay. There's things I want to know too. She sat down next to Kunosato. I didn't want to go near her. Images of Yui and Nono's death flashed into my mind, and I couldn't think straight. There was no telling what I might do if I got close. I ended up leaning against the wall. Momose, I want Shinjo to hear this too. Call him and put him on speaker, would you? Sure. And I'm sorry about what I just did. For what? Kunosato nodded to Momose, then her expression tightened once more. Momose made a call and said a few words to someone on the other end, probably Shinjo. Then a moment later, she nodded. Then Kunosato began. Let's start with the most important issue. What is the committee after? I don't know. What? If I told you I knew, I'd be lying. I'm simply cooperating with Sakuma. I've been told nothing about this organization you call the committee. Sakuma himself is only part of a very low-level committee organization that does research on gigalomaniacs. He knows nothing about the committee as a whole. And what is this organization? The research group that caused the third melt, the earthquake 6 years ago. They were in charge of the lab in the basement of Tokyo General Hospital. I shook a little when I heard her say that. That was where Senri Minamisawa had been tortured. That was where Uki had been kept and forced to care for the patients. Dad had been working for them? You just said they caused the earthquake, correct? Then it was deliberate after all. It was the result of some kind of accident. The details are top secret, and not even Sakuma knows them. Looks like my theory was right then. What she said matched most of Kunosato's theory. So I'm curious if they ever actually explain this. I doubt they ever explain all of this stuff, like the earthquake and all that. We're just getting the bare minimum. If the earthquake was the result of an experiment gone awry, then is that why the committee abandoned the research? That's what Sakuma says, at least. The accident caused the committee to pull out, and the basement lab was dismantled too. And the committee put their efforts into a different project than the Gigalomaniacs. Sakuma was angry that he was cut off, but I don't know the details. Is that why the victims of the Gigalomaniac experience were kept in the basement? That's right. The researchers had their funding pulled, so there was nothing they could do with Uki Yamazoe and the other victims but leave them in the basement. But after a while, they realized that something had gone wrong. Serica glanced over at me. The psychics created by the white light. This exchange is basically, you read Chaos Head, right? I did not. I thought that the light was some kind of causal factor that turned people into gigalomaniacs. I guess I was right then. It's a safe assumption. Sakuma and his fellow scientists were saying similar things. He has people he works with? No, his former fellow scientists, I should say. All of them except Sakuma gave up on the research and returned to less illegal work. The head of the hospital where Miyashiro and Arimura had their brain scans done would be one such example. What? Then the scans of their brain that were taken at the hospital were fakes, made as a favor to an old friend. Serika kept talking. Wow, man, he just masterminded all this crap. What she said should have been a shock to me, but so much had happened that it felt like I was no longer capable of being surprised. So Dad really... Man, there's only 2 of them left from this picture. That's rough. He was really a part of this committee thing? Dad, the guy who always drank too much? Dad, the lazy guy who got chewed out by Nono and Yui all the time, but whom everyone in Albadorm relied on more than anything? Is that why he killed him? Because they always so strict with him? Jeez. Dad, the man I loved way more than the people who'd actually given birth to me? It was all fake. When he'd been at the head of the Alba Clinic, when he'd been the dad at Albadorm, that was all fake? And then he'd killed Yui and Nono, who trusted him completely? I could feel pain in my hand when I punched the wall, but it didn't help me forget any of the other things I was feeling. What is Sakuma after? I told you, he wants to eliminate all the psychics that were accidentally created. No, his real goal. If he wanted to kill psychics, there are easier ways. Why make this all so complicated? Why leave the 11th Rorschach at the crime scenes? Why commit the murders on the same dates as the ones 6 years ago? That's right. That's how this all began. The mystery was so compelling that I'd started to work it out with the rest of the newspaper club. And in the end, I decided it was a game that the killer was challenging me to. And I was wrong. It's a message to the committee. A message? He wants them to know that he's cleaning up the gigalomaniacs that were accidentally created 6 years ago, you could say. Cleaning them up? Arimura raised an eyebrow. I felt so furious that it took everything I had to stop me from using my powers. What the hell? So you're telling me that doing that to Yui was cleaning? Momose must have seen me because she came over and whispered for me to calm down. I just barely managed. These accidentally created gigalomaniacs would be Utani, Takiyanagi, Kakita, Watabe, and these two? Kunosato pointed at Arimura and I. Serika nodded silently. That's right. Sakuma was only a part of a small organization, and he had no means of getting in touch with the committee directly, so he did things in a way they'd be sure not to miss. And by using the 11th Rorschach, the real sumo sticker, he figured he could make it impossible for them to ignore. All of the data about it was deleted 6 years ago. Of course, they couldn't leave even a single one in existence. But if that top secret picture started showing up in the news, the committee would be forced to take action. They'd make contact with him. That's what he was after. Oh, good night, Oscar. The ultimate irony, Takaru paraded himself as someone who knows everything and pursued the truth of the case to prove that assertion about himself. The truth ended up being how he knew nothing about those closest to him. Yeah, sheesh. If the data was deleted, how did Sakuma get it? He hid it. He hid it somewhere they'd never imagine, and then he succeeded in getting it back. What do you mean? He hid it inside a brain, inside the brain of one of the basement test subjects. Do you remember the old woman who was always with Uki Yamazoe? I remembered too. That blind old woman. Of course, the old woman was useless on her own. But then he was overjoyed to find out how she could be paired with another Gigglomaniac who had an exceedingly rare ability, Uki Yamazoe. Yamazoe's ability allows her to real-boot other people's delusions. He used that, right? Correct. That old woman was obsessed with the image. She sought it like you and I seek food, and then Yamazoe started real-booting it. That's how the 11th Rorschach started appearing around Shibuya. Sakuma went and recovered them and used them in his crimes. Their presence would force the committee to act. What did he hope to gain by making contact with the committee? He wanted to restart the Gigglomaniacs project, with himself in the lead. And that was all? That was the only reason. That was the only reason he'd done all this. It is kind of a piss-poor reason. And did it work? Did the committee contact him? It appears so. But before they were willing to restart the project, they ordered him to finish cleaning up this incident first. That's why he broke his promise with me, and is trying to end the killings by making Miyashiro out to be the killer. For the first time, there was a hint of disgust in her voice. So in the end, Sakuma betrayed you. Why is he trying to make him out to be the killer? Kunosato pointed at me as she spoke. The original plan was for Senri Minamisawa to play the role of the killer. The killings would end with her suicide. What? I was caught off guard by the sudden mention of her name. Of course, as you know, it was going to be another woman named Riko Haida. Takaru Miyashiro, you always thought that Senri Minamisawa was alive and plotting revenge on you, but you were scared for nothing. The real Senri Minamisawa is gone. She's dead, and she never hated you. You know about Senri Minamisawa? Not directly, but I could read Nono Kurisu's mind. More mind reading. That's one hell of a trick. Your comments are unnecessary. Either way, Sakuma planned to end the killings by making Senri Minamisawa, aka Riko Haida, commit suicide, but his plan didn't work. I suppose you deserve some praise for this, but you solved some of the mysteries of the case faster than we expected, and took quick action. Sorry, my nose is getting itchy. Yeah, pretty much anything about the Committee of 300 is a huge snooze fest in the lowest points of the series. They're barely related to direct plots, for better and worse. Yeah, it mainly seems to be just to give motivation, which is a bit of a shame. It comes across as mundane, but also that mundanity almost makes it even more horrific. He killed all these people for a promotion. Ripped apart a family for a promotion. Oh shoot, I didn't read the previous thing. Because of that, he wasn't able to kill the person he'd planned to kill, and the order of the murders had to change. Okay. Serika looked at me for just a moment, then looked away. She was probably talking about Uki. They were going to kill a little girl like that. I scowled at Serika as hard as I could. So he killed Riko Haida first, since he didn't have a choice. That's right. The return of the New Generation Madness incidents couldn't be allowed to stop. I felt disgust as I watched Serika talk coolly about murder. This couldn't be the Serika I knew. So why is he trying to turn Takaru Miyashiro into the killer? I don't know, but it might be the committee's orders. What? I never even heard of this committee until now. So why? Don't you remember? It's something you were wondering about before. What are you talking about? whether a psychic could only have one power. Oh. That's right. That had come up when we were talking in the club room. In the end, we never came up with an answer, so we had to move on. You real booted me into existence. That's an incredible power on its own. But after that, you became able to use another ability. None of the other gigalomaniacs who were struck by the white light have been able to do this. Am I correct, Kunisado? Yeah, at least according to the data we have. But according to Sakuma, the gigalomaniacs he once studied were capable of that. What? They weren't simply psychics with individual powers like psychokinesis or telepathy. They were capable of real booting anything they could imagine. In other words, once their powers developed, the real gigalomaniacs could do anything. Kunisado looked at me with narrowed eyes. So Takaru Miyashiro is the real thing then, and for some reason the committee has decided he's dangerous and wants him gone. That's just a guess, but yes, it may be connected in some way with what happened 6 years ago. Oh, good night, Gregster. Take care. And yeah, I'm looking forward to Link Between Worlds as well. That's all I can tell you. I don't know about anything else. Well, Arimura, it doesn't look like she was lying. Arimura had been watching Serika with fiery eyes the whole time. Serika looked back at her, and after a moment's thought, she spoke. Yeah, that's right, Arimura. Arimura leaped out of her seat. Stop reading my mind. There's something you've been thinking for a while now, right? If you don't say it, the others won't know. You piece of shit. There was hatred in her voice. When Serika didn't respond, it only angered her more. Serika Onoe. You used your telepathy to find psychics and kill them, right? Yeah. When Kikita was murdered in the Love Hotel, why did you kill him and not me? You knew I was a psychic, right? Both of us were there. It's simple. Kikita has the same power I did. A telepath was a threat to our plans. They could find out who Sakuma and I were. That was the only reason? It was important to our plans. Damn it, it's your fault. At some point, Arimura had started to cry. I don't fully understand this. That's right. It's my fault that Kikita is dead. Okay, what was Kikita to Arimura? We don't know. Arimura reached out into thin air and went to grab her D-sword, and then stopped. She looked down at Serika, tears running down cheeks that were red with rage. God damn it all. Arimura slammed herself back into her seat instead of grabbing her sword. She held her arms tight to her body without bothering to wipe away the tears. Shinjo, were you listening? After a moment's silence, Kunisado spoke into the phone. Yeah. There's something I want you to do. What? If there are still officers at Alba Dorm, I want them gone. The media too. Yeah, we finished our search. I think it's possible, but what are you planning on doing? I want to head there. I need to investigate Sakuma, and I want Uki Yamazoe somewhere I can keep an eye on her. Close friend of Arimura? Maybe? I don't remember. It's been a while and it was like very lightly mentioned if so. Don't know the whole thing with her, and still don't really fully know the whole thing of why those two are at a love hotel, other than the obvious. It was several hours later when Shinjo called us and told us that all the police had left Alba Dorm. We were all loaded into Momose's car, and Shinjo told us which routes to follow to get there without hitting any checkpoints. Where's Momose? She went back to Frisia. She said she's going to look at the case from another angle or something. I see. Shinjo was waiting for us in the living room. He stood somewhere he could observe Serika. I suddenly felt the familiar smells of home and felt just a little better. Yeah, this place really is my home, isn't it? It had only been a little while since I'd left to find Kurisu, but it felt like a long time. Did you make it here okay? Yeah. I nodded back, but it felt like the whole town was going crazy. As I crouched in the back seat, I could sometimes look up and peek out the window. It was bizarre how many people there were. The sun was only just starting to rise, but there were groups of people partying everywhere. Through the closed windows, I could hear irritating laughter. Everyone's excited. The whole department's deployed around the city to keep watch. Shinjo must have seen the look on my face. Are they all looking for me? No, they're not. He was about to shake his head, but... Sorry, honestly, there's a good chance they are. It's true that the festival means there are more people outside than usual, but have you looked online? Oh, no. I hadn't felt like it. There's a fake rumor going around that whoever catches you will get a reward. What? That can't be a reward. Of course, the police have made no such announcement. They actually came out and said it was a fake, but there are a lot of groups out there looking for you anyway. Everyone knows it's fake. What? Shinjo looked at Serika with animosity in his eyes. That's what a festival on the internet is like. They don't care whether the information is right or wrong. Am I right, Takaru Miyashiro? For some reason, she seemed a little happy. She was right. That was the basic mechanism for internet festivals. Arimura, where are Kunisato's and the others? I wanted to change the subject, so I asked about the people who weren't here. Kunosato is on the first floor. She's looking at Sakuma's computer, though she doesn't expect to find much. The others... Arimura glanced at Serika before she spoke. I sent them all to Uki's room. I thought it wouldn't be a good idea for them to be close. Arimura didn't come out and say it, but I knew that she meant close to Serika. Is Uki, well, okay? Yeah, it's because of Yudo, I guess. She seems to think that she has to be the big sister. Girls are strong when they get like that, you know? You should remember that. I see. Yui and Kurisu had been the same way. Whenever they had someone to protect, they were stronger than anything. Now we just have to hope that Sakuma isn't up to anything. You don't need to worry about that. Sakuma won't go after Arimura or Yamazoe until you and I are dealt with. You know, there was a challenge in Arimura's voice. Stop acting like you're our friend. It really pisses me off. She was clutching her hands into fists so tightly that they turned white. Her lips were shaking a little. All traces of an expression vanished from Serika's face. It was impossible to see what she was feeling. And then the intercom rang. I looked and saw it was from the exam room on the first floor. It was probably Kunosato. I hit the answer button and put it on speaker. Miyashiro? Yes. Besides the one in the exam room, was there any other computer Sakuma used? No, I don't think so. As far as I knew anyway. Thad, though I didn't want to call him that now, had hid everything from me. Hey, Onoe, outside of this place, you don't know anywhere else Sakuma could be hiding, right? Yeah. Serika answered Kunosato's question. During the hours while we'd waited for the police to leave our dorm, Kunosato had peppered Serika with questions. Most of the questions dealt with the nature of the committee rather than the case itself. I heard a lot of words I'd never heard before, and I don't think anybody but the two of them understood most of it. What struck me the most during that time was the rage on Kunosato's face. Her face was twisted into something terrible, and she would sometimes slam her fist down on the desk as if she was trying to stop herself from strangling Onoe. She must have really, really hated the committee. It seemed like it had something to do with what had happened to her when she was in America, but I couldn't ask her anything. I could hear her working at the computer over the speakerphone. It's no good. I'm not finding anything. Hey, Onoe. What? Is this everything you can tell me? Yes, Sarika nodded. Then what do you mean you want me to take care of Miyashiro? That's right. I hadn't gotten the chance to ask that. Sarika had said that at Frisia. Just what I meant, Mio Kunosato. I want you to keep Takaru Miyashiro alive for as long as possible once this is done. What? I'm going to where Sakuma told me to go. Of course, I'll be going alone. Sarika looked at me as she spoke. What? He told me to take you with me, but there's no need for me to do so. I'm going to kill him, then die myself. So I want you to leave this city with Mio Kunosato's help. Once he's dead and the truth becomes known, your innocence will eventually be proven. What? Why? You're not going to do any dangerous things anymore, are you? No, that's not right. Why are you doing this? Because the reason I exist is to keep you alive. Do you really think I'll take him? Kunosato's voice was cold, as if she thought the whole thing was a bad joke. You won't? Of course not. I'm here to take revenge on the committee, not to babysit gigalomaniacs. If you can get Takaru Miyashiro out of Shibuya, your wish might come true, you know. What? Kunosato fell silent, as if she was thinking of something. What was going on? What would happen if she took me out of Shibuya? Listen carefully, Mio Kunosato. Sakuma wants to be a part of the core committee, but that's never going to happen. The committee has no such intentions. No matter what you do with Sakuma, you'll never get any closer to them. But if you get Takaru Miyashiro out of the city, things change. Chaos Child Syndrome, huh? I frowned when I saw Sarika nod. Chaos Child Syndrome. That was the name for the PTSD symptoms that started appearing in children after the Shibuya earthquake. What did that have to do with anything? You're the only one who can do it. You have the knowledge to fight the committee, and you've noticed what makes Hekiho and Albadorm special. You're the only one who knows why there are so many psychics in Shibuya. Man, it feels like we are not getting the full story here at all. I'm guessing Mio has her own ending. What do you think? The people you want revenge on might just come to you. I didn't know what she meant. I could tell that Arimura was confused too. Excuse me. Albadorm and Hekiho Academy were special? And what was this about all the psychics being in Shibuya? It's because of that white light that created them all. No. Wait, that's not right. That light was what created the physics, the psychics. That's what I'd learned from all the information so far. But there's no reason for any of them to stay in Shibuya, is there? Wait a second, what are you talking about? Arimura shouted towards the phone. Why are all the psychics, all the people like us, in Shibuya? There was no answer, but I knew Kunosato heard her. Sarika stared at the phone as if waiting for an answer. Was there some connection between the psychics and Chaos Child Syndrome? Are you certain about this? What? That getting Miyashiro out of Shibuya is the key to keeping him alive. Even when Sakuma's dead, his mind control will remain. There's no place in Shibuya where Takaru will be safe. Which means he has to get out, right? Arimura, is she telling the truth? She should be, but what is all this about? What do you know? There was another silence. This time it was long enough that I thought she'd hung up. That means that getting Arimura and Yamazawa out would make it more likely that I run into the committee as well. Do what you want. As long as you take Takaru Miyashiro, I don't care. Huh, wait. You two get your things together. Tell Yamazoe too. We'll have Shinjo help us. Suddenly, she hung up. What's going on? That's what I want to know. I'll be right back. Arimura sounded irritated as she ran downstairs to go see Kunasato. I thought to myself as I watched her go, was there still something I didn't know about the case? Do you want to know? Sarika was looking at me, as if she was trying to test me. Again. She was reading my mind again. Maybe it wasn't that they didn't leave, but something prevents them from leaving? Yeah, it seems like that as well. Maybe something was implanted in some way? I don't know. Don't do anything dangerous. No, just do what you want. I turned away before the feelings of my mind turned into words. That's right. Anything else would mean betraying Nono. I glanced to the side and saw that Sarika was still staring at me. Her expression was the same as ever. But she seemed the same as when I knocked her hand away at Frisia, sad, as if she'd dropped and broken some priceless treasure. Alright, where are we going now? So now is the time to celebrate Shibuya, a city reborn. Everyone, the festival has begun. Thank you for your cooperation. 9 a.m. We have a long day ahead of us. The second Shibuya Peace and Restoration Festival had begun. The people gathered in front of the Hikari-wo began to loudly applaud when the mayor finished his speech. Then they started to split off to visit the concerts and stalls that they wanted to go see. Over 80% of the people were from outside Shibuya. Many were from Tokyo, but others had come all the way from outside the country to witness the celebration. There were easily more than 100,000 people in attendance. The first festival was held last year to celebrate the 5th anniversary of the reconstruction, and the whole ward had come out to celebrate. A similar event had been done a year after the disaster, but it had been less of a festival and more of a memorial. The rebuilding work was proceeding at a feverish pitch, but at that point it was still too early to call it a city reborn. But last year, even though there were still areas that were covered in rubble, the 5th year anniversary and the prospect of the tax revenue that would come along with it was enough to get the government to hold a festival for the whole ward. Blech. Despite being only a one-day event, it attracted over 80,000 people and worldwide attention. It was such a big success that for this year, the city had put even more effort into it. The concerts were bigger and there were more places to eat and drink. The main areas were centered around the Hikari-wo building, as well as the Shibuya Cultural Hall, Shibuya 107, and Shibuya Sign City. All the main roads around the station were closed to any traffic that wasn't bringing in people or equipment to the festival. This feels like such an attitude shift. Bunkamura Street and Dogonzaka Street in particular were overflowing with performers and stalls. I'm familiar with Dogonzaka thanks to World Ends With You. Should we do this spot next? The reporter with Tokyo NEX TV saw the cameraman nod and then looked at the scene in front of her. This whole thing was stupid and she could tell she was getting tired. Center Street, one of Shibuya's busiest shopping streets. This street always had a lot of young people to begin with, and now at the festival it was covered with stalls to visit and filled with people of all ages. There's too many people here. When she'd been given the job of reporting on the Shibuya Reconstruction Festival several months ago, she literally jumped for joy. The reason she was so excited was that the vocalist for one of her favorite bands, Momone Takiyanagi, was going to be performing on stage. Ever since she happened to hear Takayanagi's voice at a concert hall, she'd been a fan, or perhaps a dedicated believer. She was willing to do whatever it took to get a camera to her performance at the Restoration Festival so that the whole world could see how wonderful she was. But... Hey, Hair is Live. Hopefully you're doing well. Sabidon, the further this goes, the more I'm starting to like Serica. She's essentially like a living doll that has one goal and will stop at nothing to accomplish it. I can respect characters like that. Yeah. Yeah. It is interesting. Like, I mean, it makes sense. It does. It's just twisted thoughts and all that. Well, I'm glad work's done at least. And good night, Cat Evie. Even though tomorrow was supposed to be my day off, I was asked to work a morning shift. Gotta go to bed now. Now, fair enough. Good night. Good night, Cat Evie. Thanks for joining. Why did she have to die? She'd been caught up in the return of the new generation madness and murdered. Now there was barely any point in covering the Restoration Festival anymore. But she still had to smile and obey when her boss told her to come here, and in the end... Now I'm off chasing rumors? She wanted to believe that a big TV station would be better than this. What she was doing was little better than rubbernecking. Oh, there they are. Look. The cameraman pointed at a group of people wearing homemade t-shirts. The shirts had a white print background with a photo on the front, and a big red question mark that covered the photo. They were all young, just like all the others she'd interviewed so far. She covered her annoyance with the same smile she used to deal with her obnoxious boss. Then she pushed through the crowd and got close to the group. Hello, what are you up to? Wow, are you from TV? What station? Who cares, she thought to herself as she told him she was with Tokyo NEX. This, look. He pulled on his t-shirt to show her. The photo in the center was of two fat male faces, the sumo sticker. So if the TV's here, is it true? What they said on Twitter? Huh? What's that? She played dumb and acted surprised. She certainly couldn't tell them she'd come here because of a rumor on Twitter, especially when there was almost certainly a lie. There's a rumor that Miyashiro is going to kill himself right here. She knew about it. Before dawn, it was supposed to happen in front of the big TVs, and a few hours ago, it was next to the statue of Hachi in front of the station. By Miyashiro, do you mean Takaru Miyashiro? The fugitive? Yeah, I've got a picture. He started to fiddle with his smartphone, seemingly oblivious to the fact that she hadn't asked to see it. It was the same picture of Takaru Miyashiro that she was already sick of seeing. According to her boss, it was from his student notebook. What? How did you get this? You don't spend a lot of time on the internet, do you? Everybody's got it. We're totally going to get that reward. A reward? Come to think of it, there was a fake rumor about that going around. Did you make those t-shirts yourself? No way. We just bought them for 300 yen back there. Don't they look stupid? It's just a meme. And then they all started to laugh, though she didn't get the joke. She could feel herself getting more aggravated. She'd seen similar t-shirts and placards, and even some that were declaring Takaru Miyashiro a god and glorifying the sumo stickers. Some of them were being sold as part of a movement to get rid of the sumo stickers so people would focus on the festival, but most people were just wearing them to be a part of the chaos. Of course, this was the first time she'd seen anyone who actually believed in the reward. What are your thoughts on Takaru Miyashiro? Total son of a bitch. He's a serial killer, right? And he killed people from his own orphanage. What a sicko. Those weird otaku guys says he's some kind of god, but they're just a bunch of creepy losers. I hate those assholes. She ignored most of what they were saying. There was no need to go any deeper. As long as she had the footage on her camera, that would be good enough. But everyone seemed to think that Takaru Miyashiro was the killer. At least everyone who come to the festival to find him seemed to think so. And they were probably right. The official announcement just said that he was wanted as a person of interest, but if he wasn't the killer, they wouldn't have to have used his real name. And she'd also heard that they were, in fact, looking for him as a suspect, though she didn't know where this information had come from. Oh boy. Excuse me. Throat is definitely starting to feel dry. Oh boy. Excuse me. Whew, we're getting to it. No, I have my water. Yeah, I don't. I mean, I don't think anything else will help. It's just I have very dry throat right now. Yep, definitely gotta be better about taking sips more often. Oh boy. Takaru Miyashiro, the killer behind the return of the new generation madness. She suddenly felt a rage building inside her. There was no way she could do what she'd originally set out to do now. The angel with the heavenly voice was dead. But if there was one reason to participate in this festival... That's right. I don't care if they're just rumors. I'll find all the information on Miyashiro's whereabouts that I can, and make it easy for people like these to find him. If he wanted to kill himself in public, he was probably some kind of sick madman. If he pulled it off, even more idiots might start worshipping him, and that was probably just what he wanted. She wouldn't let that happen. That wouldn't atone for her murder at all. He deserved to be deserved a miserable, painful death, preferably with people throwing rocks at him like an old historical drama. Hey, what's wrong? Oh. Only then did she realize that the people in front of her had stopped talking. She said thank you and went to go find another person to interview. Oh, right. Sorry. One last question. She suddenly stopped and asked the group one last question she thought of before they disappeared into the crowd. Where are you from? Saitama. We came by bike. Then they laughed again, but she still didn't get the joke. This time she turned around without thanking them and walked off into the busy street. She could tell her cameraman looked confused. He didn't seem to understand the meaning of her question. If they were from Saitama, that meant they weren't from Shibuya, and from the look of it, they weren't victims of the disaster. People who had nothing to do with the Shibuya earthquake were here looking for Miyashiro. So were the victims of the earthquake she'd just interviewed a while ago, who were hoping that the Restoration Festival would be a success. So were people who had a grudge to bear against him, like her. Yeah. I mean, I'll be doing a little bit of talking, but definitely not as much as this. Come out, Miyashiro. Her thoughts were never going to be heard on TV, and the people nearby couldn't hear them either. The nice thing is at least Danganronpa has some voice acting that I can take a break with. But they were shared by the vast majority of the people at the Restoration Festival. Whenever she saw someone wearing a sumo sticker on their clothes, she figured they were after Miyashiro, and when she went to interview them, she found that she was right. But in fact, the news that Miyashiro was going to kill himself in front of the crowd had been playing on TV every hour since last night. And because of that, over 98% of the people at the Restoration Festival heard it. There was literally no place safe for him in the city. Yep, all the information we had before. The words made me sick, so I turned off the TV. I realized that the skin on the soles of my feet was starting to rub off, and unclenched my toes. It felt like if I didn't keep some part of my body tensed up, I'd scream and start smashing things. I'd always hated outsiders who never cared about the actual people caught up in something, but this time it was different. Who's the son of a bitch? Damn it, you don't know anything. You don't understand anything. And if you don't know anything, then you need to keep your mouth shut. I wasn't the one who killed Nono or Yui. Serika had been sitting in her chair, barely moving. She seemed to be staring at a spot on the wall, just waiting for time to pass. Takaru? Oh, hey Anna. Kinda forgot about you, to be honest. Hey, you're not supposed to come in here. I suddenly shut my mouth. Uki and Kazuki were both looking at Serika. Their hands were shaking, either with fear or suppressed rage, or maybe both. Where are Shinjo and Yudo? Shinjo's on the phone. Yudo took some medicine and he's asleep in my room. I see. I was glad he was asleep. If he saw the person who killed his sisters, he probably couldn't take it. He was still just in elementary school. Little break from reading. This is why I'm so glad the next Psy Adventure game is being dubbed. That'd be nice. The two of them stared at Serica, unmoving. Serica didn't move either. But it's true. At some point, Serica turned away from the wall to look at them. Uki Yamazoe, Hana Kazuki, I was the one who killed Nono Kurisu. Their expressions changed. Serica must have read their thoughts. They took a few steps back and shivered. Then you were behind all the other murders too? That's right. Why? No, then... Serica's voice was calm, but Uki's was small and shaking. You know something about the place where I was, right? Where are the people I was taking care of? I don't know. Answer me, please. If you were the real killer, you must know. I suddenly realized why Uki wouldn't back down. That's right. Uki didn't know about Dad yet. I hadn't had the time to tell her, and Uki really looked up to him. Uki was extremely shy, and it was Nono and Dad who'd given her a place here. And she'd always found her meaning in life in helping others, so doctors must have been people she really looked up to. I can't tell her. Uki Yamazoe, it seems you haven't heard yet. She's just going for it. Don't. I jumped out of my chair. You should have been capable of finding out who Sakuma really was. You probably met him 6 years ago. What? What are you talking about? Yes, I can't blame you given what you were going through. Sakuma is... I said stop. Oof. As I screamed, I hit her with my power without even thinking about it. I slammed her off of her chair and onto the floor. And then I walked over and grabbed her by the hair. I'd never been this violent with a girl before. I could hear Uki and Kazuki gasping at the change in me. Look at me. I grabbed her by the hair to make her look me straight in the eye. Enough of this. Don't you dare destroy any more of my family. I looked at her, mustering all the rage I could in my mind. She should be able to tell how mad I was. Serica must have felt my anger, or maybe it hurt where I grabbed her hair, because her face twisted a little in pain. I looked back and saw Uki staring at Serica with wide eyes. Kazuki looked sad too. Stop it. Even if Onoe is a bad person, I don't want to see you being scary like that. I am Groot. Yeah, you're right. I let go of Serica's hair. She ran her hand through it violently and tried to try and get it back into place. Takaru, where is the doctor? What happened to him? And Shinjo told us to get our things together. Does it have something to do with that? Well, there were tears in Uki's eyes, but I couldn't bring myself to tell her the truth. Serica stood up, and then she grabbed her stomach again for some reason. There was blood on her hands. That's from where Dad said he stabbed her. Come to think of it, her wound looked like it had opened when I used my powers on her at Frisia. Damn it. I turned to Uki, who looked like she was on the verge of breaking down in tears. I'll tell you what happened later, I promise. So go get your stuff together, Uki. But I am Groot. Uki looked like she wanted to ask more questions, but Kazuki grabbed her hand firmly and shook her head. And then she pushed her gently on the shoulder and led her out of the room. Thanks. I said thanks in my mind for Kazuki's kindness. And as soon as I heard the two of them start to quietly pack up in Uki's room, I invited Serica downstairs. Follow me. Just do it. Huh? When I went inside the exam room, I didn't see Kunosato or Arimura. That's strange. I thought they'd still be here. There's no equipment here for a surgery. Sarika must have already read my mind. It's better than just a first aid kit, and Nono had said that Dad had used to be a brain surgeon, and that he'd done operations on patients during the Shibuya earthquake, and that there were still patients who said that he'd saved their lives. That's right, Dad was a good doctor. The people in the neighborhood loved him. He drank too much, and he could be a little lazy, but he was a man who found his life's work in helping others. He was a man I could respect. So why? At first, I hadn't believed he could betray us, but as time passed, it started to seem more real. I knew it was pathetic, but I almost started to cry. I tried to take my mind off of it by going through the shelves, which were filled with gauze and drugs. But all the medicine bottles had neat labels in Nono's handwriting, and when I saw them, it only made me want to cry more. That's not right. Sakuma was a monster who gained the power of mind control and enjoyed it to the fullest. He only played at being a good doctor. Sarika lifted up her shirt and showed me her stomach. Oh, jeez. That's... Oh, God, that looks brutal. It was covered with packing tape that had been stained dark red. It was wound poorly and far too tight. Sakuma once saw me using packing tape to treat an injury and laughed. Not bad, he said. I didn't know what he meant. Do you remember the second murder, when Takiyanagi, the street musician, was killed? Yeah. Her stomach was cut open and a speaker was put inside. She was mind-controlled into using packing tape to stop the bleeding. When I saw him make her use the packing tape, I asked him why he was making her do that, and this is what he said. She's just like you, right? A doll. Isn't that funny? I could imagine his tone and his voice. I felt all the hairs on my body stand up on end. I read Sakuma's mind. It felt like I had to know why he was saying that. Sarika let out a long breath as if letting something that had been building up inside her. He wasn't thinking about anything more than what he said. The only word in his mind was funny. He's not normal. They talk about people who get pleasure from killing, and he's not even that. All he cares about is whether or not he finds something entertaining, and it doesn't even have to be murder. Don't try to have any feelings for him. Don't try to understand him. Give up the idea that he was a loving father. I know that. No, you're still hoping. But to him, the conversations he had after dinner with you were no different than the brutal murders he committed. I said I know that. I couldn't tell how my confused thoughts appeared to Sarika, because I didn't know how I felt myself. Dad was trying to join some organization called the Committee. That's why he was going to kill me and put an end to the case. I was tired of hearing that. There's no way I can take in all this so quickly. Just 10 hours ago, Dad was Dad, the lazy guy who drank too much, the doctor everybody loved. That's going to be painful to fix. Sarika started to silently tear off the packing tape. This isn't a surgery center, so there shouldn't be any surgical tools. Instead, look in the bottom drawer in the back desk. What? That was the desk Kurisu used. There should be sewing tools in there. Kurisu had indeed kept sewing tools in there to patch the buttons back onto Dad's white coat. I did not know that super glue was invented to close wounds. Huh. That's something. Did she learn that by reading Kurisu's mind? Damn it. I was angry, but I did what she said anyway. There was a bag filled with sewing tools there, like always. I gave them to Sarika, and she grabbed a needle and thread at random. She disinfected them and started to wordlessly sew up her own stomach. Seeing the sewing needle stick into Serica's pale white skin was worse than seeing the wound itself. She showed no hesitation and no sign of being in pain. What kind of life has she lived? Our eyes met. I forced myself to think of something else before she could answer my question. Where did Dad want us to go? Serica finished her stitches and tore off the end of the thread. The place where everything began, at the time where everything began. That's what he said, right? You don't know what I mean? Where everything about this case, no, this and the one that's happened 6 years ago, where all of that began. That's right. Let's see if we can't match the time too. It'll be more dramatic that way. That's what he said. The place where everything began. Just like you and Kunosato suspected, the cause of all this was the Shibuya earthquake. It was caused by the explosion of a certain device. And what you call the causal factor, it's a special type of electromagnetic wave, actually, that was spread out from there. That's what caused the psychics to awaken to powers they never wanted. So the conspiracy theory that the Shibuya earthquake was caused artificially, it was true? That's right. Like you were told at Frisia, that device was secretly set up in a planetarium in front of the Shibuya station. Kunosato had been the one to tell me that. Some company had bought out the planetarium and used it to do experiments. But that's where the Hikariwo is now, right? That's right. But there's a facility inside the building that was modeled after the old planetarium. The theater cube. What? The theater cube. A huge theater located inside Hikariwo. It was used for musicals and famous performance groups from both inside and outside Japan. Now I'm just getting Xenoblade vibes from this setting. It was the largest part of the Hikariwo building and one of its most popular attractions. So it was modeled after the old planetarium? Accidentally pushed B. Excuse me. Come to think of it, I had gone there just once before. There was a foreign musical playing. I remembered being amazed at the size of the place and the luxurious design. But what I remembered best was the faces of the people I'd gone with. Yui, Yuto, and Nono and Dad. I think it was to celebrate Nono and I making it into Hekiho Academy. We made it into Hekiho, which offered free tuition for earthquake orphans. And Dad had joked, this frees up a lot of cash, and bought us expensive front row seats. Noah had gotten mad at him and told him he was wasting money. Thinking back, that was the first time the five of us had ever gone anywhere as a family. It was a memory I treasured. But why did Dad choose a place like that? Onoe closed her eyes for a moment. Probably because of you, Takaru Miyashiro. Me? The Hikariwo is at the center of the Restoration Festival. The place will be full of people. He probably plans to kill you in front of the crowd and make it look like a suicide, just like he said. Using his mind control, she continued. And once the events in the afternoon are over, the theater will be a huge empty space by nightfall. If he does have to get into a fight with his D-sword, he can avoid being seen. He made a big deal about where it all began, but I can't imagine he would specify a time and a place for no reason. Which means the time is 10:28 p.m. I would never forget that time. It was when the Shibuya earthquake struck. At 10:28 tonight, the festival is going to undergo a change. All the festivities will end for a time of silent prayer that will cover the whole city. And then you show up after telling everyone you're going to commit suicide. You can imagine what will happen, right? That piece of shit. There was disgust in her words. But it wasn't rage. It sounded like she was suffering somehow. Why, Serica? If you're that angry, if you're in that much pain, Why did you do what he told you to? What he told you to? I've told you many times already. You remember what happened when I was created, right? Serica, save me. Please. Onoe, please, give me... You wanted someone to save your life. That's how I was born. I have no other purpose in life. I've given up everything else for that. That's how I've lived from the moment you created me. No, living that life is why I was born. I'll obey anyone if it means keeping you alive, even Sakuma. I couldn't speak. If what Serica said was true, then the real cause behind all of this was... There's no need to feel responsible, Takaru Miyashiro. I shuddered reflexively as she read my mind. You didn't know anything about the Gigalomaniacs or the ones who were responsible for their creation. So, this isn't your fault. The feelings that pained me deep inside my heart came boiling up. Are you okay with that? I forced myself to speak the words. Are you okay with that? That's right. Even if I created Serica, even if I'd given her a reason to live, you killed Yui and Nono. That wasn't what I wanted. The kind, gentle Serica Onoe I knew would never want that. She had to keep me alive? Even if it meant losing Nono and Yui? Even if it meant killing them? That wasn't what the two of us wanted. Was she really willing to give up everything else for the goal she'd been given? That wasn't human. Then you really are just like a doll. Serica didn't move. She just looked back at me. It's time for me to go. She was the first one to break the silence. She tossed the old packing tape, the used gauze she put on the wounds, and put on her wounds, and the remainder of the fresh bandages into the trash, and then adjusted her clothes. After you leave Shibuya, stay quiet for a while. Mio Kunisada will tell you what to do. She headed for the door of the exam room. She wasn't looking at me anymore. She put her hand on the doorknob and without looking back said, I was planning on staying here until nightfall, but Uki Yamazoe's power is a potential threat. I don't want her trying anything, and I don't want you changing your mind. What? But before I could say anything more, the door opened. Shinjo was standing there. I wasn't sure how long he had been there. He looked down at Serica, seemingly trying to keep his emotions in check. I see. You're not sure what to do. You're a murderer. He blocked Serica's path as he spoke. No matter what your reasons were, and even if those reasons were beyond anything a normal person could imagine, a murder is a murder. You have to be arrested and put on trial. I'm sure. Serica's voice was calm. And this case is my way of avenging another detective I respected a lot. The two of them stood facing each other. The air was thick with tension between them. They stood like that for almost a full minute. Oh, soy sauce. Just thought of a parallel between Sakuma and Takaru I didn't realize. Sakuma was obsessed and wanted to be like the committee behind the murders that happened 6 years ago, whereas Takaru was obsessed and wanted to be like Takumi who solved the murder 6 years ago. Oh yeah, good point. I couldn't see Serica's face from here, but Shinjo's expression seemed to waver once in a while. He probably knew that Serica was reading his mind, so he was thinking the things he wanted her to know. It felt like there was a silent but intense discussion going on between them. Eventually, Shinjo sighed a little. He moved to the side with a pained expression on his face. You're sure about this? Once the festival's over, no matter what kind of pressure my bosses put on me, I'm going after you and Sakuma, no matter where you run. You only need to go after one person. Only one of us is going to survive. She went to walk out of the room at a pace which belied her injury. Miyashiro Takaru. She stopped, and without looking back she said, survive. No matter what happens, you have to survive. And then she disappeared. Don't think about it too much. About what? Never mind. He scratched his head, then checked the time and frowned. The police are putting everything they have into security at the festival. I'll have to leave soon too. While I'm gone, another cop will be here. Let's see, you can hide in Uki's room. He won't know you're here, so he won't look for you. Alright. I'll probably be back tonight. We can leave Shibuya then. Be ready to go. Right. I answered him, but my body wouldn't move. My hands were clutched tight, and I hadn't even realized it. I felt so frustrated, so angry and disgusted with myself. All these horrible things were going on around me, and someone else had already decided how I was going to escape them. I had done nothing at all. Shinjo seemed to be about to say something else, but instead he left the room silently. The clock said it was past 10 p.m. I was supposed to be getting ready to leave Shibuya, but I couldn't leave Alba Dorm right now, and most of the stuff in my room was already taken by the police. There wasn't much for me to do. And why am I leaving Shibuya anyway? It might just be to avoid the warrant, but it was clear from the way Serika and Kunosato were talking that there was probably another reason. Something that had to do with us psychics, and something that had to do with the Chaos Child Syndrome. Damn it. I quickly closed my eyes and shook my head. No, don't do it. Don't try to find out. Remember your promise to Nono. You've already learned what happens when you try to find out about things you're not supposed to know, right? Onoe's gone, right? Huh? I looked up and saw Kunosato and Arimura by the door. How long have you been here? Were they at the front desk next to the exam room the whole time? We didn't want Onoe reading our minds, so Arimura and I hid. Kunosato entered the exam room. Arimura followed after, but when she saw the bandages and tape in the wastebasket, she looked at me angrily. I'm not on her side. I sounded a little guilty as I said it, but all Arimura said was, I know. But the look on her face was strange. It was as if she blamed me, but wasn't able to say it aloud. What is it? Huh? There's something else you want to say, isn't there? Tell me, I'm sick of secrets. You're right. Arimura looked at Kunosato for a moment, but evidently it was okay for her to tell me, because she continued. What did Serika Onoe say? What do you mean? You talked about a lot of different things, right? I couldn't make out what it was exactly, but I heard voices. Yeah. I gave them both a brief version of what Serika had told me. Kunosato crossed her arms in thought for a moment, then whispered to herself. I thought so. What? What's your take on this? On what? On what Serika had to say for herself. What? I didn't even think about it. None of the things she had to say were what I wanted to hear. Even if I created her, I still can't accept this. No, that's not what I'm talking about. Kunosato raised a hand to cut me off. What she's done is unforgivable. Whatever the reason was, that won't change. That's not what I'm talking about. What did you think about her explanation of the case last night? What she said last night? What did I think? She told the truth, right? Arimura had heard the whole thing and used her powers to check it. But Arimura looked down at her feet and said softly, Miyashiro, do you remember what I said after what happened with Ito and Yui? That if I'd been more careful with how I used my power, I could have figured out that something was wrong with what Ito was saying. Yeah? Arimura had regretted that deeply. But what did that have to do with Serika? Oh. I looked at her face and suddenly figured out what she meant. Was there something that Serica had said? Was she lying? No, she was telling the truth, but it was strange. I don't know how to say it. It was all too true. Too true? What does that mean? I listened as carefully as I could. My power lets me tell when someone's lying, but people's words aren't always black and white. They hesitate, they get vague, they sometimes forget what they're trying to say. They're just not very clear, right? So even when they're talking normally, there's a part of what they're saying that's kind of gray. How long are we from the next scene to avoid ending things mid-scene? That's a good question. I'm wondering that myself. Human speech isn't always the product of a careful, logical train of thought. It's a mix of reason and emotion that sometimes meanders or jumps topics altogether. But Serica's Onoe's were all straightforward. It was like she was reading from a script. And there were parts of what she said that I didn't like. Kunosato sat down in a chair without asking permission. When she was talking to me at Frisia, I was stupid enough to let the blood run to my head. I wasn't thinking straight. So on my way here, I got an idea, and I decided to try it. That's why I couldn't let Onoe read my mind. Oh, so that was why. Last night, Serica had stayed in the exam room instead of coming up to the living room to talk with everyone else. I'm pretty sure it means Kunosato has stayed in the exam room. Lon, thank you very much for that tier 1 subscription. 22 months now. Hope you're having a good evening as well. We're close to wrapping up. It's just as soon as we finish this scene. That was the reason. What made me particularly suspicious was our discussion on the phone last night. She told me to get you out of Shibuya. She said that was the best way to keep you alive. Yeah, I remembered her saying that. Arimura seemed to be suspicious that her words were too true, but they seemed like the truth to me. Getting you out of Shibuya makes sense, so does killing Sakuma, who's a threat to you. But doesn't it seem strange that she'd give you to me? I didn't know what she meant. What seems strange about it? Why do you think she trusted me to take care of you? Because you know something, right? Something that we don't. That's why she... Even without that, if the reason she exists is to keep you alive, she would need to stay with you until the last moment of your life. Am I wrong? But that changed because of Dad, because of Sakuma. Arimura interrupted me. That's what she said, and she wasn't lying. But don't you find it strange that she wasn't lying? I stared at her, uncertain as to what she meant. Yep, she's been side-controlled. She's being mind-controlled at this point. Looked up a playthrough in around 13 minutes until its scene change, according to it. Oh boy. Well, we'll keep going just because we gotta have... it seems weird to have us pick up in a mid-scene like this. That's right. Her words might be lies disguised as truth. Kunosato nodded. Lies disguised as truth? She'll do whatever it takes to keep you alive, no matter what. But how is that a lie? Sakuma is just a scientist for a small-scale organization. What's the point of dying to kill him? It's useless. The committee's power is vast. Killing Sakuma doesn't guarantee your safety at all. But how can she protect you if she's dead? That's why she's giving me to you. Don't be stupid. It's true that I plan on using you as a decoy to lure out the committee, but once I don't need you anymore, we're done. I'm not going to keep protecting you. Serica Onoe can read my thoughts. Do you think she doesn't know that? In other words, if the committee is really after you, she would never allow herself to leave your side. She would do whatever it takes to protect you herself. Am I wrong? And there's one more thing that doesn't make sense. Oh, Jason Rocks, thank you for the gift sub going to Zacian. That's very kind of you. How far-reaching is frickin' the doc's mind control? My God. Why didn't she just tell you the truth from the start? From the start. When you woke up from your coma after the earthquake. Oh. If her goal was keeping you alive, there was no need to ever hide the truth. Instead, telling you about her power, about your power, and about the committee would give you a better chance of staying alive. If you'd known about them, you never would have gotten involved in the murders. You wouldn't have put yourself in danger. See? Something's not right, is it? She was right. I didn't realize it until they told me. Yeah, we'll just get a scene change and we'll call it a night. I never would have done the things I did if I'd known what Serica had told me last night. Just like Kunosato said, I would have stayed away. In fact, I might have done something to keep us away from it. If I had, Nono and Yui might still... But... Why? Why had she hidden the truth? It's like she was trying to put you in danger, isn't it? Arimura said the same thing I was thinking. But she can't have been lying, right? You were right next to her last night. No, there's a way. There's a blind spot in my powers. A blind spot? I remembered what Arimura had just said. Everything Serica had said was the truth, but it was too true, as if she was reading from a script. Oh, I found it. There was one way. One way to get through Arimura's powers. Was it the same thing as Ito? Arimura nodded slowly. Yes. If it was the same way I missed what was wrong with Ito. Mind control. Originally going through this, I wasn't too fond of the she did it to keep him alive motive compared to another motive I had theorized. So I popped off at this scene when they disproved it. Yeah. It did, like, there were just odd moments here and there. It just felt like a little too far. I don't know. That meant there might be a little bit of hope. In other words, Onoue's mind is being controlled by Dad, by Sakuma. And she only did it because she was being controlled, just like Ito. But Arimura didn't look any better when I asked her. I thought we might be that lucky, but it's just one possibility out of many. Don't get too attached to it. You heard her. I see. My shoulders slumped. Miyashiro. Don't get any weird ideas. Even that might be a trap. Clueless Anonymous, thank you for the raid. You killed Bill, Charlie. I don't know who Bill is, but Charlie shouldn't have done that. Playing Eggs of Steel, Charlie's Excellent Adventure. I am not aware of that one whatsoever. And now he's going to kill you. Yeah, I've never heard of that. But we are also playing a murder mystery called... better off for it. Yeesh. We're also playing a murder mystery called Chaos Child. And we are basically right at the end. Oof, it's bad. And yeah, we're basically right at the end where we're getting everything revealed and basically setting ourselves up for the big finale. So welcome. Thank you so much for the raid. Really do appreciate it. But I should have ended about 6 minutes ago. So I'm going to get right back to it because it's like after midnight for me. Oof, Charlie's the worst protagonist you've ever met and you played Y2K. That's yeesh. That is rough. That's a bad protagonist. I spoke clearly. I thought I was telling the truth. But Arimura looked down as if she was in pain. Was I lying just now? Kunosato must have figured out what I was thinking because her expression became more stern. I think there's a potential for mind control too, but it still doesn't make sense. If Sakuma's controlling her, why fake a fight between them? She was right. There was no reason for Dad to do that. Oh, the game has you interested a lot. Yeah, definitely check out the VODs and hope you enjoy them. We're pretty close to the end of the game. So you have a great night. Thanks for the raid. If he'd sent Serica as an assassin, I would have been dead already. The two of us had been alone together, and Serica had done nothing. Damn it. I knew it. There was no point in hoping that Serica was really just a normal girl who didn't know anything. I should have been able to tell from watching her last night. Oh, thank you for the subscription. Oh, that's super nice of you. Thank you so much. I think how the mind control works is what happened with Ito was Sakuma has to be close to the target to actually do it, but the effects linger whether or not he's close. Yeah, it seems to be the case. What's after this game? After we finish this game, we'll be getting into Danganronpa 2. I should have been able to tell from watching her last night. The way she talked, the way she acted, the way she behaved toward everyone else. It was all different than the Serica I knew before. If mind control was involved, she would have acted like the Serica I knew. Because, and I hated myself for saying it, if she had been the old Serica, I couldn't have brought myself to hate her. I would have thought for a long time, and then maybe forgiven her. And then, like an idiot, I would have done exactly what Dad wanted, and only regretted it the instant I was killed. Oh yeah, we're going crazy game to crazy game, for sure. Kunosato's expression was as fierce as ever. Yes? Think carefully. This could be extremely important. I asked you this yesterday, but during the earthquake, what did you wish for? If that wish was what Rial booted her, what did you want from her? Was her job really to keep you alive? I remembered what it had been like back then. I remembered the hellish sights around me, the horrible headache, and I remembered begging Serica to help me. Serica said it was her goal to keep me alive, to save my life, literally. And yes, Sonic Joe, I'm streaming tomorrow. That'll be the start of our Link Between Worlds playthrough on Hero Mode. There was a brief but strong pain in my head. I pressed my hand to my forehead. Whenever I remembered that, the pain came back. Are you okay? Arimura had been through the same pain, so she was worried. I raised my hand and told her I was okay. I think I just told her to save me. I couldn't remember if I'd barely been able to get the words out, or if I'd shouted them at the top of my lungs, or if I hadn't even said them aloud at all. But I could remember asking Serica for help. But was that really all I asked for? Back then Damn it. There was a new pain. This time I could feel a throbbing in my temples. I pressed my hand harder into my head and the nails dug into the skin. My whole body staggered and I collapsed to the floor. There was a warm sensation on my shoulder. Arimura was trying to help me up. I'm sorry. I'm fine. I'm fine. You're lying. Arimura led me over to the bed in the corner of the exam room. I wanted to lie down right away, but no, I can't. Shinjo said another officer is coming. I have to hide in Uki's room, like he said. Then let's just go upstairs. I nodded and thanked her as she held me by the shoulder. I forced my body to softly push off her and stand up on its own. Kunosato, too, I'm sorry. She sighed in resignation and shook her head. It's fine, she said. Without Onoe here, I can't get confirmation either way. From what you said, Onoe is going to be at the Theater Cube at 10:28 tonight. But unfortunately, I can't see myself being able to fight two psychics. I haven't even fired a handgun in a long time. What? Arimura turned to Kunosato, surprised that she'd fired a gun. Kunosato seemed unusually hesitant, but said, I hate to say it, but we'll have to give this up. There's something not right about what Onoe is saying, but we don't have anywhere near the time or manpower needed to find out what it is. Alright. The entire game has been dropping big hints on Serica's real motive, so I'm super interested to see everyone's reaction to it. Yeah, I don't know it at all, honestly. I have no idea. For now, we'll wait for Shinjo to get back and then leave Shibuya. If this is all some kind of plot, we'll just cross that bridge when we come to it. All right. We changed scenes, so I think we'll step here with whatever Yudo's up to. So let's make sure to save and welcome Linky. Just as we got to the end here. Whoops. His battle. So, with me at this point, Soy Sauce, do you think we're actually going to be finishing the game next week? I'm actually very curious whether next week could end up being the finale. 2 more streams. There's that much plot. Oh my god. Wow. And I feel like we got a good head start on this one, but hey, final chapter long and all that. Oh, there it is. Committee of 300. Real boot. All right. So that's too long for the last chapter. No, it might not be Hera's Live. It could be the final. Could not be. I honestly don't know. We'll find out. But otherwise, of course, we'll be back tomorrow for the beginning of the Link Between Worlds playthrough on Hero Mode. First time I've done Hero Mode. I hear it's rougher in the beginning than at the end, but yeah, we'll see how that all goes. It should be fun, especially in comparison to, you know, all the Tears of the Kingdom stuff. So that'll be wild. And of course, next week we'll be continuing through Chaos Child. And as a reminder, our subathon, I'm still getting everything fully structured out, but that'll be happening on June 10th. So keep an eye out for that. Hero Mode is, I think you take 3 times the damage and hearts don't drop. I think that's what happens with Hero Mode. I think. Not 100% sure on that one. I've never done a Hero Mode run for Zelda. Simadon says, reading out loud probably adds a few minutes compared to just reading it and moving forward. I can see why someone who knows this game says it might take more than 1 stream. Yeah. We'll see what happens. But we'll see. Let's see who we can raid real quick. Where is it? There it is. Who's streaming right now? Nobody I follow is streaming. Unless somebody else has a suggestion. Otherwise, we'll go to bed since it's already 15 minutes after where I usually stop. So, but I wanted to get, let that scene sink in. So, yeah. Not seeing any suggestions for a raid, so I guess we'll just call it. All good. Anyway, yeah, thank you all so much for joining me. And hope you all have a great night. Hope you have a great week. Have fun playing Tears of the Kingdom. Looking forward to me playing some Link Between Worlds. And should be a good time. Till then, everyone. Bye.